And
Welcome back to the Raw Prospect Podcast. As always, we're your hosts, Emmy Nixon and Michael Ween. And today, we've got a special guest, Mason Ward,
Sorry, what's up, guys?
the one and only.
Second time on the show,
Michigan State convict.
college football,
No,
I guess.
Ohio State.
Yeah, no, Michigan State.
Oh, Michigan
My brother's
State.
Ohio State.
brothers, Ohio State.
Okay, I was right the first
You're good, yeah.
time.
We'll talk about both of them.
Yeah, we'll get into that today. So today we're going to be covering the entirety of the college football preseason rankings. Is it ESPN rankings?
Well,
It's
we're
just
gonna go.
yeah.
Pretty much all of them, depending
Mhm.
on
And
what
we're just
you
gonna
use,
give
are pretty much the
Yeah.
same. We're gonna start by talking about some teams right outside the top 25 that Mason has. So if you want to start us off, and then we're gonna go through the top 20, top 25, and talk about overview of the team, and then how many games we think they're gonna win.
For sure. Definitely. I kind of looked at, I believe it was like 4 or 5 of the top 25 lists. And it was like add the Athletic, Athlon, and then you had ESPN, 24/7, Bleacher Report. I looked at all those. And a couple of teams that a couple of these sites had at 24 or hovering around the 24 or 25 range, or in that category known as others receiving votes that no team wants to be on. I was coming up mainly with Virginia. I mean, Michael, you'd be able to talk about them a little more than I can. But from the looks of it, they have a really solid defense. Bronco Mendenhall's third or fourth year?
Third year.
Third year. They're going to go as far as Bryce Perkins' legs can take them as far as their offense. He had 34 touchdowns last year. That's only 6 shy of around what I think Sam Ehlinger did, and he's the one getting Heisman talk. So I think he's going to be key in their success. And I didn't have a win total percentage win totals for any of these teams outside of the top 25. But I think they're going to be contending in the ACC Coastal, or they're the other one.
They're not in Clemson's side. So
They have a good chance.
some projections have them winning their side, which is the Coastal. I think
Yeah, Coastal,
Clemson is the Atlantic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
some projections, including Phil Steele, the college football expert who now
Yeah.
works for ESPN, have them winning the ACC Coastal and facing Clemson in the ACC
That
championship.
makes sense.
Obviously, they get crushed by Clemson,
Yeah.
but just
Just to get
winning,
there.
getting there would be a great accomplishment.
I think I
for the
saw
program.
that they're the only team in that division that has not gone to an ACC
But the-
conference championship.
If they want to get there, they're going to have to get past Virginia Tech. They haven't beaten Virginia
Yeah.
Tech in like 10
And
or
Syracuse
15
will be
years.
solid again.
Yeah,
this year
Syracuse
as
is
well.
very good. Okay, so I'm gonna get through the rest of these bubble teams in a hurry, so we can get to the actual 25. But I want to talk about Army because they have their rushing attack led with their quarterback like always. Who was it? Keenan Evans? No, but this year it's Calvin Hopkins Jr. He had 17 rushing touchdowns last year. The Army defense is always disciplined and strong. And they do have an early game, or I think it's early game against Michigan, which is huge. I think they're going to mop up on the regular season, and I think they're going to have like around 10 wins. And I think they're going to lose to – so there's 2 games that I think they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose that game against Michigan, even though it'll be closer than most people think. And then I think they're going to lose one of the kind of a back half of the schedule. There's 2 games that I think are really interesting for them, Hawaii and Navy. And I think they will lose to either of those teams. If they beat Hawaii, I think they lose to Navy, mainly because Hawaii could be a trap game for them as they look forward to the always entertaining game versus Navy. Next, I'm going to move on to Boise State because a lot of sites had them in the top 25. I just couldn't bear to put them ahead of some other Power 5 teams. They even lost their starting quarterback. They still have a great coach, and they still have they have good offensive and defensive line play. And they have a quarterback. The quarterback that should have won the job, Chase Cord, I believe he got injured, and there's kind of debate as to whether he's going to be able to lead the team at the beginning of the year. But they always do have an easy schedule, and I think they'll be 10-2 as well with losses to BYU and maybe Florida State. So that's what I have for my teams on the bubble that I want to talk about, and we can get in the top 25 if you want to start moderating that.
So yeah, we'll do top 25. I think depending on what you use and what you use, our top 25s may be different a little bit. But I have the Phil Steele thing as I talked to you about, and it has all the team schedules, all of the team information. So if you guys want to start by calling out a team, y'all can talk about it, and then I can pitch in when
Okay.
necessary.
You can start because I was talking a lot.
All right, let's start with Texas A&M.
All right.
Who you have at 25? Hey, that's not far off from what I had him too. That was a big leap for me to say that.
It's Jimbo's second year.
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot of really good recruits this year. They had a really good recruiting class the last couple of years. So if they're just able to develop the young talent, I think they'll be able to surprise some people and win some games. I think they have the number one quarterback recruit in the country. I believe.
I
Um,
think better than
I
I do.
would.
I heard that from.
I don't know about that. They brought in, who was it? They have Haynes King in 2020.
Okay,
But
that's
whereas,
what I was thinking.
and he's really good.
Mhm.
But for 2019, I think they got a really good quarterback. But I'll look it up in a second. But
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so they
But they got
Kellen-
Mond.
They got Mon.
Yeah.
Who was
everybody knows Mon.
good last year. Everyone knows who he is. But I'm looking at their schedule. Early, they start off easy game against Texas State. They should win that by a lot. They have to go at Clemson this year. And the difference this year is they'll be facing everyone remembers the close call last year at home.
Right.
But that was against Kelly Bryant.
Yeah.
Totally
No
different
Trevor
story.
Lawrence and
with
Justin
Trevor
Ross.
Lawrence.
Completely different.
And
team.
they got to go to Death Valley, so that might be a loss.
That will be a loss.
That will be a loss.
Death Valley.
Lamar, they'll beat them. I think they'll beat Auburn too. I think they'll beat Arkansas. Those games are all at home. They have a bye. They have a home. They host Alabama. I think that will be another loss. Fair to say.
They play the two teams that played for the national championship.
At Ole Miss, I think they'll win that.
Yeah.
Mississippi State, I think they'll win that. UTSA, they'll win that.
Hopefully.
They have another bye week. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I think South Carolina
Yeah.
and then at Georgia. I think they're going to lose one of the two.
I don't think they're not going to win at Georgia.
No.
Yeah.
So I
They
think
got to get that South Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm projecting
That's big for them.
they finished the season at Georgia and at LSU. So it could be
That's a bad. They have a bad start, a bad end, and a bad middle.
it could be it could be 4 losses, but then that's still I don't know 1, 2.
But last few years, LSU has been in like shambles at the end of the
They've been
season.
a bunch of
Okay.
mysteries surrounding.
So that would be if we're really thinking logically here, that would be either 9-3 or 8-4.
I had them at 7
Which
and
is
5,
still really good.
just because I can't have them beating Clemson, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, or Auburn. I mean, I may have put that LSU game as a question mark, but LSU is going to be ready for that game. It's at the other Death Valley.
Yeah.
And then it's at the end of the year, just like last year. And LSU could be playing for a spot in the SEC championship that week, because most people say for the first time in like a decade. I think it was I was reading like October, like 2012, in 2013 when you had Zach Mettenberger and your receivers were Odell and Jarvis Landry. It's going to be the first time since 2013 they're going to have an okay offense.
And that
Which is huge for them because their defense is always great.
Yeah,
It's
defense
Ed
is
Orgeron.
always-
He's coach. It's
in
gonna
the
be great.
SEC play,
Mhm.
when they finish with the road finale, they're 0-4.
That's
road
wild.
finales.
Wow.
So they haven't won one of those yet.
And I don't think
Well,
they'll win it
When
LSU,
you have a bad offense, your defense can't carry you to win games on the road. You have to have
especially
a
in
full
the
team.
SEC.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I had them at 23. So it's interesting we both had them because most rankings have them like top 12, 13. And if you look at the preseason, the team has the look, and obviously with Jimbo Fisher coaching it, the team has the look of a very good team. But once you look at the schedule, once you look at the fact that they don't have a lot of stars, they lost Travion Williams, they lost who was it? Mack on the defensive line,
Right.
Dalen Mack, and then you lost some of your depth on the back end.
Yeah, Dylan Mack.
Yeah, and you're not really. I mean, it's going to be. They did have a great recruiting class. I was looking at it. You got guys like the tight end Jalen Weidemeyer, or they lost Sternberger, right? So that was their big tight end. They got some running back. They got a bunch of DBs. And they may be replacing the Steph, but it's going to be a lot harder than most people think. And I think they'll see how horrible their schedule is pretty soon.
That brings me to last year, 74-72, A&M LSU.
Yeah, I think there's
Remember
bad
that?
blood.
That was crazy.
I think LSU's ready to have a revenge game on that one.
Yeah.
They're leaving no doubt this
I
year.
mean, last 5 years, 8-5, 8-5, 8-5, 7-6, 9-4.
Wow. I mean,
So
this is
pretty
a
consistent.
make or break it year for that program in the SEC. I think
Yeah.
to be able to say that you were better off than you were before you moved to the SEC. And I think there's a graphic that came out. I'm talking about Texas A&M a lot just because we're all in Texas and we hear a lot about them. But
Just wait till we get to the UT.
yeah, I think a big measure for if they're better off than they were is the wins. But and a lot of people were pointing to the fact that they have a greater share of 5 stars than they ever have in their own state of Texas, as Texas used to dominate it. And Texas still beat A&M in the terms of 5 stars and high 4 stars. I believe it was 269 to 264 in this decade.
Wow.
But it also opened the door for many other SEC teams in Alabama and Ohio State to come in this decade. And that's mainly because Texas struggled in the beginning half of this decade. But I think A&M's really going to have to prove that they're worthy of having this recruiting hotbed and that they're actually going to make a difference and be different than they were in the Big 12 this year. I think they have the coach, they have the backing, they have the play, they have Kellen Mond, they have the quarterback for the first time in a while. Whose name isn't Johnny Manziel, that I think can lead them to a consistent. They have the pieces to be good, but I think their schedule and external factors may prevent them from realizing that.
Yeah,
Culture is a big thing in college
Yeah.
football. That's huge,
Mhm.
and I just don't think with the state of the program has been in the last few years, I don't think they'll have the full backing of the entire campus.
It's like they have to stop and start a lot. You know, they always right when you think they're about to get going, something happens.
Right.
And then this year, it's going to be that you have to play 5 top 10 teams pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, you got to play Clemson on the road, Ole Miss on the road, Georgia on the road, and LSU on the road. And last year on the road, they weren't good. They were 1-3. They were 6-1 at home, but they were 1-3 on the road. And that one loss at home was to the eventual national champions.
Exactly. No one's faulting them for that. So, yeah.
So
That's
they've been really good at home, but you know those road
Some
games,
games you just can't
against
win.
the top 10 teams might haunt them.
They're just a class below some of those
Yeah.
other SEC teams.
All right, so I think that's enough said about A&M.
Yeah.
Throw out another team.
All right.
Who you got?
The next two.
We can talk about Stanford.
Okay.
Stanford
yeah,
is really
okay.
interesting because a lot of people are giving them top 20, top 15 hype. And while the Pac-12 really is wide open, they have a lot of questions to answer because Bryce Love is no longer there. Who was it? Cameron Scarlett, I think, was their other running back. He's been gone.
Mhm.
And then their top receiving threat, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who's
Oh,
a
yeah,
beast.
he got drafted.
He's gone. And they have they have a senior quarterback, KJ Costello,
Right.
and traditionally quarterbacks at Stanford who are starting in their senior year have mastered that system. That usually takes a lot for a lot of quarterbacks to master. That kind of pro style David Shaw type offense, and their defense is always solid, and their O line led by Walker Little is going to be great. But you look at their schedule. I mean, it's another factor, another thing I chalked up to scheduling because originally when I started this, I did my own rankings, and I had Stanford at like 16 or 17. But then by the time I was done with the rankings, and by the time I looked at their win-loss projection, I had them at 6-6, and I don't even know why I have them in the top 25 because I have them losing to Northwestern, who I really like this year. I have them even losing at USC just because of the way USC has the talent to bite people. And then I have them losing Northwestern, USC, Oregon, Washington State, Notre Dame, and Washington. They only have 5 defensive starters returning as well.
Wow.
So it's like they may have a solid defense. It's just they don't have. I don't think they have the pieces and the consistency and stability
And
to
only
get there.
4 returning on offense.
That's not good. That's not good for a team that many people are putting top 20 to 15.
You have something to say about Stanford?
I mean, I don't see them getting off to that bad of a start. I just think this team is really well coached. I know that they're young,
Yeah.
but yeah, I can see them losing to Northwestern and maybe USC.
Yeah.
Actually, out the gate, they could be 0-3.
That's
in
what I
a
was thinking.
heartbeat. But
It could be 0-4.
Oregon. Oregon's going to be top 10, 11. I have them.
I mean, I think.
Yeah. It depends on what you think of some of the teams that play.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's a lot of question marks, and right now we don't have the
I
answers.
mean, you mentioned only half their defense returns. Last year, the Trojans put up 623 yards of offense and 42 points against.
Well, maybe it's a good thing.
The
Maybe it's
Cardinals.
addition by subtraction that they're getting rid of some of
Yeah,
those dudes.
maybe it is.
But with Stanford, that's hard to believe.
But Stanford has won actually 4 of the last 6 matchups between the two teams at USC.
I think that'll be a good. That's early. When's the USC game? That's game 2. That'll be a good game to see if they're ready, if they're really back. Because Northwestern, you can forgive them if they lose that because Northwestern's going to be good. But I think that USC game is going to be a big marker of who they are as a team because they have at UCF next week, and UCF's going to be pretty good. They may not be amazing. They may not go undefeated, but they'll be pretty good this year. And then that's back-to-back road games at
They
USC
did.
and then at
The
UCF.
schedule makers didn't do them any favors.
Exactly.
That's for
Out of
sure.
the gate, you
sure.
got
I
4
think,
teams that can beat them.
I think they match up well with USC as a program,
Yeah.
just because they're so hard nosed. You know,
Mhm.
just as a collective unit. You know, they don't have that many big names, but you can just tell by the way they're coached, the way they run to the football. And also USC, ever since Pete Carroll left, it just seems
Yeah.
like they've lost some of that toughness.
They've tried to get it back, but they can't.
Yeah.
I think I'm looking at that. Oregon State, they have that amazing running back, Jeremiah Jefferson, I believe is his name. I mean, if Stanford doesn't get their act together, they could go 0-6 to start the year.
I don't think it'll
Before a
happen.
bye.
Mm.
I think
That,
they'll only
that
win
may not
2.
happen, but they have a very dangerous schedule.
Yeah, especially early.
Yeah.
And then you don't get any
Who's that?
favors at
Yeah.
Washington State.
Yeah,
And
I'm
then
sure
Notre
they're
Dame
In
will
well-
Pullman, in the mysterious Pullman,
and
Washington,
Notre Dame to finish
versus
the
the
year.
Pirate. That
So-
could be.
Dang.
That's
They
a
don't
rough
have-
year.
Pac-12 may be a trash conference, but they get
Yeah.
no breaks over here.
Mhm.
Wow, that's.
I think the Pac-12 is going to be a lot. I mean, you
It's
said
solid, yeah.
it's going to be more solid.
Yeah,
They have a lot of
more
players,
solid than
yeah.
it was last
They may
year,
not
for
have
sure.
Some
for sure.
CFB contenders. I mean, depending on what you think of Oregon, but they're gonna have a lot of those teams. Like we'll talk about them pretty soon.
And then I really like KJ Costello though.
Yeah, that's the thing. But who's he gonna pass to?
That's true. But last year, he obviously had Whiteside and Love,
Yeah,
but he did complete 65% of his passes, 3,500 yards,
that
29
Stanford offense
touchdowns,
just get you results.
and
So
11.
maybe it's a plug and play.
interceptions.
Maybe you will be able to have.
And he
another-
also rushed for 300 yards and 8 touchdowns. So he
he's
can do-
he's a good
he can
quarterback.
do-
He's
yeah.
a senior. He's
He can
a
do
senior
both.
leader.
Dual threat.
No one's saying they're going to be bad as, even
Yeah.
though I literally just said they might open 0-6. But they obviously have those people. And KJ, it depends on how much KJ Costello can do. Because we all know he's a great quarterback. But I don't know. I don't know how much I should limit what a starting
Yeah, I
quarterback
think
can do.
I think if they lose, it won't be because of him. I think it'll be more of like, I don't want to compare it to what Josh Rosen was doing at UCLA,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's a little bit more
I
like
think
that
that's similar.
situation.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a really good comment. Yeah.
All right, so how about you throw out our next
Okay, so this next team is another victim of scheduling circumstance
team?
that a lot of people have not. A lot of people have top 11, 12, 13. I'm talking about Penn State.
All right, go ahead.
They lost their quarterback of all 4 years. It was what was his name?
Trace McSorley.
Trace McSorley. Obviously, Saquon's gone. But you got McSorley's gone. You have Ricky Slade is going to be the running back, but Miles Sanders, who filled in fantastic for Saquon. Everyone thought they were going to have a down year in the running back position, but Miles Sanders was amazing last year, but he's gone. And they do have a lot of really good recruits. They have Micah Parsons, I believe. He came in. I think he's either a redshirt freshman or sophomore. And they have Ricky Slade and Justin Shorter, and they got Will Fries and Journey Brown. And I think that their defense will always be formidable, but I don't see their offense being too great. And I think that Like I said, their schedule's going to hurt them more than anything. I mean, you could say that for every Power Five team that doesn't have a great offense. But I see them losing to Michigan State, Ohio State, Michigan, and a team that not a lot of people are talking about, but maybe should in Minnesota. So that's what I have. Do you guys have any?
That
thoughts?
Iowa game is a trap game as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Iowa's going
I
to be
was looking at
good
that
this
game.
year. Is it at Iowa?
It is at
Yeah.
Iowa.
Ooh, and you never
That's a
want to
tough
play in
place
Iowa.
to play. That is
Yeah.
a tough place to play.
Especially without an offense. You get trapped down in that end zone early.
Who's their quarterback again?
I don't even know. I was looking at their. Is it Tommy?
It's either Tommy Stevens.
Yeah,
I think they haven't made a decision yet.
I think it's Tommy Steve. Yeah, and that's concerning if you don't have a clear cut,
hmm
especially by this time of year.
I mean, McSorley left. Obviously, they have Sean Clifford and Tommy Stevens. Clifford.
So I think Clifford might get the.
Clifford threw 7 passes last year, and Stevens threw 11. So not
That's
a whole
not
lot
a
of
lot of
experience.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knew it's always hard to replace a 3 or I think he was a 3-year starter, but especially with unproven guys like that, a bunch of question marks. And Sean Clifford has the intangibles from what I'm reading, but I don't know. And they do have the talent, but they did also have a bad offseason. I think they lost a couple guys to the transfer portal. We don't even need to talk about that because we could go on a
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah,
about the
we've gone
transfer portal.
forever with that.
But I think that's going to be another question mark. And unlike Stanford, where basically everything except the QB is a question mark, I think the QB is the big question mark because their defense is going to be pretty good. But we'll see about their offense and the skill positions, especially up in the Midwest. Definitely towards the November, December when everything gets really cold and freezes over.
Okay, so you said losses to Michigan, Michigan State, maybe Iowa, Ohio State, and
Yeah.
Minnesota.
So I think it's good to interchange Minnesota and Iowa. So I think they'll probably win one of those games, but they'll also lose. So I say that gets them to 8-4.
Okay, that's still a.
This regular
good
season, they could get to 9 with a bowl.
Yeah, they were 11-3 and 16, 11-2 and 17, and last year they were 9-4. So sustained success, consistent.
Yeah. You got James.
But they lost a lot of talent. So
Vegas over under is 8.5. So you got them right at 8.
Yeah, so I just take the under on that. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I guess I'll right on that one.
all right,
All right.
let's move.
Those
to-
are my 25, 24, 23. You guys want to talk about Iowa now? Because I have them at 22.
Sure.
Yeah, let's go.
Amy, do you want to talk about them?
Well,
Or Michael? Anyway?
Iowa, they always have
Yeah,
a great
Kirk Ferentz. Yeah.
It's just whether or not they'll put enough points.
Yeah.
I don't know who their quarterback is this year. I
It was
think
Nate Stanley, I think, and a lot of people are talking about that guy. I think a lot of people. I think he's a senior.
it was the same one as last year.
Yeah.
Okay. I just forgot his name then.
Yeah. I only found out because I was like looking up 5 minutes before this.
They have a very old school style to their
Yeah.
offense. I like it. They just run the football down your throat and then they just play action pass to their big tight ends.
Yeah, and who was it? You have who are their tight end? They lost 2 of them in the first round.
Oh right.
You had Noah Fant as well as. Do you know who that second tight end was? It was another long name, tall white guy,
Hawkinson.
T.J. Hawkinson. They lost 2 tight ends in the first round, which is like
Hawkinson.
unheard of.
Yeah.
And they're like tight end you over there. But I think they have. I think I was looking at tight end is the only position where on that team that the people that they have combined to 0 snaps. So they're really deep. But maybe they'll be able to pivot out because tight end it's good to have, but it's never necessary because you can always have good blocking tight ends. Those aren't too hard to come by. But they may be able to focus more on the running game. Big Ten, you always do. But they have a really good defense. They lost Josie Jewell, and they lost a lot of guys, but they have this defensive end kind of hybrid guy, AJ Espenza. What is
I was
his name?
about to-
Espinoza.
I'm gonna talk about
Epineza.
him, you go.
Epineza. And he's a stud. And I was looking at Pro Football Focus. He's a top 10 defender. And the Big Ten. And I think he's going to be a stud for them. And they always have a really veteran O line. It's a bunch of
Seniors,
Iowa,
basically.
yeah, always
Class.
somehow they
always.
have 5 seniors every year that are always really good. They got Mekhi Sargent at tailback. He may be starting, but he's really dynamic. But the thing is, I have them going 7-5. So it's like we're talking about how great this team is, but I have them losing to Ohio State, Michigan, Nebraska. Where's that Wisconsin game? It's at Wisconsin. I have them losing to Wisconsin, and I have them losing to Penn State.
Okay.
Because I don't know,
It's
that
fair.
Penn State
It's
game
fair.
is a toss-up, but I think it's just like I don't know.
It's fair. Yeah. My overview is they get Nathan Stanley.
Yeah.
They returned 6 stars on offense. Nathan Stanley last year, 59% of his passes, 2,800 yards, 26 touchdowns, 10
that's
picks,
good.
130,
Especially in that slow-paced offense.
137 QBR. So
Just
really
methodical,
good.
reliable
Yeah,
guy.
Right.
methodical and reliable.
Accurate.
They have 2 NFL caliber offensive tackles, so they got a good
Oh,
O-line
yeah.
to protect him.
That's a good sign. If you have a great O-line and you have a great quarterback, I don't know.
Defensively, they only returned 4 starters,
One of which
but they lost all 4 starters from their elite front 4 from last year. But you mentioned AJ Espensa, and they have some really good defensive backs.
For sure.
They're supposed
As
to have a
always,
really
yeah.
good secondary. So, the schedule again doesn't do them that many favors,
they are great at home.
but they are great at home, and they have a good coach who knows how to
Parents, yeah.
develop his talent. So,
Right. But
We'll
it's
just have
not
to
it's not
see.
the cakewalk that they've had the last few years. That's
No.
for
Yeah.
sure. I guess with that we can move on.
Yeah, their over/under was 7.5. So I have them 7-5. I've taken the under on a
I don't
couple
know
of
if I
these teams.
put Iowa on there, but
Yeah.
whatever. All right. So,
My next team is Auburn.
Me too. I have
Oh,
a 21.
really?
Yeah, we have a
Y'all-
pretty similar one.
y'all
I wasn't even
matching.
looking exactly on the.
you guys
Like I just
matching.
made this up. But yeah, you want to?
You can't
You can't
write
make
this out. Like, you
All
can't
right.
make that.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
All right. Auburn.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Jared Stidham's gone.
Yeah.
That's the first and foremost biggest thing. When you have a first year starter in the SEC West, it's always going to be difficult. But I just think this team is deep enough talent wise to be able to compete well enough to get like a top 25. I think they'll be like 21st or 20
I
at
have
the
a
end of the
21.
season.
Yeah.
They'll be right around there. Their defense is always okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who they recruited this year, but
They always recruit well, but they're not. In the past couple of years, they haven't been great on talent development.
right.
Yeah.
The strength of that team is normally the D line. That's what
Yeah,
I
they
always-
got Marlon Davidson and Derek Brown up front. Yeah, saw that.
Yeah. Let me pull up.
I see that they on the back end they have Jeremiah Denson and Daniel Thomas, but they're gonna have a huge question mark on how that quarterback Joey Gatewood's gonna be, because like you said, they're gonna have to replace Stidham. What a tumultuous ride that was! That was a wild time.
Yeah.
Auburn football.
Wow.
I think they lose in that neutral site opener versus Oregon. I think it's at Jerry World for recruiting purposes. Thanks A&M. But I think that's mainly because I think Oregon's going to be really good this year with Mario Cristobal. But I think that they lose versus Oregon. They lose to the SEC, so they're going to have to play a really rough schedule. I think they lose to LSU, lose to Georgia, lose to Florida, and lose to Bama. I think that they go 7-5. Because that's another team that had like top 15. And I looked at their schedule, and I look at a lot of the question marks, and I'm like, I really can't see them going more than 8-4. And you have Gus Malzahn. I don't think he keeps his job because people were going to fire him after last year. They went 8-5 last year.
Yeah.
They're going to go around that, like within one up or down of that. And I think that's not going to, depending on the bowl game, he may be gone after this year.
Yeah, they're not a traditional blue
Yeah.
blood. So it's
Yeah.
just,
They
just unrealistic.
They're gonna have a
expectations.
really, really good defensive line this year.
Derek.
Yeah. And the offense, I think, is since they don't have Jarrett Stidham, that more pocket passer type
Yeah.
quarterback, they're gonna get back to running the quarterback more,
Yeah, Gatewood.
like
a lot
they
of people.
did
I really like
way
Gatewood.
back with Cam Newton.
Right.
I'm not saying, it'll be Cam Newton, but
Well, yeah.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think they're
Cam
gonna
Newton.
run the quarterback more, which will give them more options in the offense.
And also running quarterbacks, Alabama's kryptonite.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's when Gus Malzahn's offense has been at its best, is when the
Right.
quarterbacks have been able to, like that,
Yep.
run like
I'm
that
watching that right now.
with the
In their
options.
spring game, Gatewood's the guy.
So, but their schedule is tough. They got to go at A&M, at Florida, a team that we're going to talk about
Yeah.
later,
Yeah, but
They're a very interesting team.
at LSU, Georgia, Alabama. They play all the top tier SEC.
yeah,
teams.
it's
So
that's
Go Red Sox.
there's no
15-3.
On the Yankees.
Man.
But, yeah, that'll be rough. I don't know. It's just the SEC. It happens every year to a couple teams, and this year I think everyone's going to be swept under.
All right, so we can move on.
Michigan.
I got the other Iowa team, Iowa State. I mean, a lot of people have them pretty good, and I think this is the start of a lot of teams that could be shuffled around.
Right.
I think my 15 to 19, 15 to 20 is going to be really similar,
Right.
and their records will be similar. But I'll just go ahead and start. But I think they're really interchangeable, so I couldn't have them as high as 15. They have it's Matt Campbell, one of the greatest coaches. One of the best coaches in the NCAA right now. He turned around whatever Iowa State was before,
Yeah.
which was not good. And they're fantastic. They have a tough defense. They got Ray Lima on the D line, Greg Eisworth to back it up. And they got linebacker Mike Rose, who had like 0 FBS offers until this year, or until they had to pry him away from some other school, and Iowa State got him, and he had a great year as a true freshman last year. And you got Brock Purdy, who turned out to whose cousin is he?
I forget.
He has some famous cousin, but he did really good last year. He led them to. Weren't they going to?
They
They
were
had a
going to
chance.
be in the
Yeah,
Big
if
12
Texas didn't
championship
beat
with
them.
Texas, yeah.
If Texas didn't beat them, they would have gone to the Big 12 championship, which is huge. And then,
But they lost their star receiver as well.
Yes, they did. Alan Lazard.
Last year
Lazard.
they started real slow. They started 1-3,
They had to play Iowa.
but they had their first ever. After that, they had their first ever 5-game winning streak in Big 12 play.
Well, I mean,
So-
yeah, my man's a great coach, and they lost David Montgomery.
Then
who
they
was the
ran.
world running
Then
back.
they ran into the Longhorns, and they lost that, despite outgaining the Longhorns 515 to 327 in yards.
Oh.
And they lost the bowl to finish 8-5. So
I don't know. I think that's more of the case of not getting to the Big 12 than
yeah,
their bowl. But I think they lose. I had
But-
them going 9-3.
they are one of the more experienced teams
They
in the
really
country. They
Yeah.
returned 16 starters, 8 on offense, 8 on defense.
And that's always a good sign with
That's
the guy like
huge.
Matt Campbell. Yeah.
According to this, it's his best team. I mean, this year's going to be his best team
Wow.
that he's had in the.
It may not be the most talented, but it's gonna be the most solid,
Yeah, it'll be his 4th year, 8th overall.
most disciplined. Yeah.
Where did he coach before? Do you know?
I believe maybe
I
one
mean,
of the
not that
service
it
academies.
matters. But I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think he was a coordinator there. I think one of the service academies, maybe
I think.
From
I'm
19
Toledo
Right.
was 2011 to 2015. Toledo, Bowling Green.
to speak to his
back in the
greatness.
Kareem Hunt days.
Matt
Yes,
Campbell,
yes.
to speak to this coach's greatness. Listen to this. From 1979 to 2016, this program had one season where they won 8 or more games.
Yeah, talk about.
Now they have-
that.
2 back-to-back seasons.
That's why he turned that program around.
So he's turned
got-
it around totally.
The biggest problem of all stepping stone or obstacle in the path is getting people to live in Ames, Iowa,
Yeah, that's true.
and
Right.
he's doing it.
And they've done it for basketball. No,
Yeah.
make it work for football. It's harder.
What do you guys? I think a small game we should talk about is the Iowa State Iowa game, Battle Iowa.
Where is that this year?
That's going to be in Ames, Iowa State.
Ooh, that's another crazy stadium. Going to Ames, the Cyclones Jack Trice Stadium. I have them losing on this, but now that I think
Yeah.
about it, I kind of like
Could
them.
go either way.
Yeah, if it's at Iowa State and they got a quarterback, that'll be a good game to watch. The Battle of Iowa. That's early in the year again, right?
Yeah, it's
It has to be non-conference.
they.
Yeah.
It's
Is it
weird.
week 2 or 3?
They open up, then they get a week off, and then they play the meat of their schedule.
Oh, that
and they have
game.
another bye.
I think they played Northern Iowa last year. That game was rained out, so Iowa State was mad that they didn't have another win in their win column
Mhm.
to put them ahead in the standings because it got rained out. And I just remember that was a weird thing.
Texas got
That's
to
what we
go to
Yeah, and then
Iowa State.
yeah, and the thing is they always schedule that game on like not a Saturday. It's always like Thursday or Friday. One year was a Halloween. Any team should be lucky to get out of Ames with the win.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how.
I
ugly it is.
remember 2 years ago, Ellinger was a freshman.
Yeah.
They lost that game 22-0.
Well,
It was
I don't
ugly.
even want to think about that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean they're just tough. I like them. Well coached. There's not much I can say about them other than whatever I said a lot.
Experienced defense,
Mhm.
solid offense.
Yeah.
It makes for a great college football team.
Yep.
Simple.
All right, next team.
I got UCF.
UCF.
19.
They like to claim their national championship.
championship. They're coming. They're gonna come this year. But,
I don't blame them. They did,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Everyone was making fun of them. Oh, I ain't blaming them.
All right.
They had LSU for a while in that bowl game.
Yeah, they did.
What was it, a quarter and a half or something? They were up.
Yeah.
And they got that pick 6 on Burrow. I thought that game was over after that. I mean, obviously the talent and the athleticism of LSU won out,
Right.
but I think they're going to be great
What the
I think they win that game if they have their quarterback.
if Milton's playing. And the thing is, that backup did not play bad.
He
It's just Mackenzie Milton is a game changer.
Right.
That injury was
Against
horrible.
LSU's defense, you got to be able to throw downfield
Mhm.
in tight windows.
They actually have a QB battle this year because you have that former Notre Dame guy Brandon Wimbush versus Daryl Mack Jr., that guy who came in the bowl game, and I think that's going to be interesting because Daryl Mack did play really well in the absence of Mackenzie Milton. But Milton's just a leader as well as a presence.
Mhm.
And he's going to try and come back. Milton is, but I don't know how successful that will happen or will be. They still have Marlon Williams and Gabe Davis at wide receiver. You got Greg McCrae at running back. I have them going 10-2 mainly because of their schedule, and I have them losing to Stanford, and I have them possibly losing to Houston and De'Aaron King. De'Aaron King's coming back, I think, right?
I don't know, but I'm just reading this.
Mhm.
They finished AP top 10 in 2013.
Oh, was that Blake Bortles days?
Yeah,
That was Blake Bortles.
that was the Blake Bortles days.
Oh, man.
But I didn't. Inexperienced, injury-plagued team shockingly went 0-12 in 2015. 0-12. They didn't win a single
Yeah,
game
I don't know if y'all
in
watch.
2015.
Yeah.
But Scott Frost built them back up. They went 6-7 next year, and 13-0, 17, and 12-1 last year. Obviously, with the bowl loss.
Undefeated regular season, yeah.
Yeah, last year they had an undefeated regular season, but they had some close calls. They trailed Memphis, Temple.
Memphis had Bradley
At the half.
Ferguson. Temple was good.
They
Yeah.
trailed both of them at the half, but ended up winning both those. This year they returned 13 starters, but they lose Milton, as you mentioned. Yeah, they play Stanford and Pittsburgh in back-to-back weeks. That'll be somewhat tough. And then later they have a showdown at Cincinnati. I think those games are going to determine if they can keep up with the success that they've had the past.
That kind
2
of
or 3
air
years.
just air it out,
Yeah,
wild offense that they have.
but we'll see. I mean, they're UCF.
They've established themselves. That's
Yeah.
for
People
sure.
thought Scott Frost was the key to success, but they showed that they had at least another year. They were running on fumes last year, so
Mhm.
we'll see what happens.
So he went to Nebraska.
Yep. and we'll talk about them a lot pretty soon. But I like them.
Yep.
Let's look at their schedule. So, Florida A&M, Florida Atlantic, Stanford, and Pittsburgh, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And then Connecticut at Cincinnati on a Friday.
Ooh, interesting.
By East Carolina, Temple, Houston, all the usuals.
I have them losing. Yeah,
And they finish up with their rival USF.
I have them losing Stanford and Houston. The Fighting Charlie Strong's.
Okay.
USF's gonna get.
Let's move on. Next team.
I have Syracuse at my 18. They lose Eric Dungy, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NCAA over the past 2 years. And the Orange Men, as they're called, led by you got Dino Babers up in the Carrier Dome. They have, I think he's a sophomore, Tommy Stevens, the quarterback coming in. And you got Nykeem Johnson at the wide receiver with Mo Neal, and they got that OU transfer Abdul Adams, I think is his name, at running back, and they always have a near dominant defense, at least in the ACC. And the crux of this season, I think, will be that Clemson game, as they could feasibly reach 10 wins again. And I think it's a feat that I really expect them to do, because I have them losing to just Clemson and Florida State. I don't think Florida State's going to be great, but I think they're going to trip up, or Syracuse will trip up against Florida State. They could go 11-1 in the regular season, which would be crazy.
Yeah.
But I have them losing at least 2. I just don't have them.
Say?
I think Louisville will bounce back to an extent this year.
Yeah, I agree.
So that could be a trap game near the finishing stretch of the year. As you said, Florida State. I agree with that. But other than that, the schedule is pretty mild.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't think they're great, but their schedule is favorable.
Yeah. Let's see. They returned 6 on offense, 7 on defense. Last year they were 10-3.
They're pretty much the same results.
Yeah,
If
schedules.
they can work it, if Tom Stevens can come in and do anything, as well as Donji did, I think they'll be in good position.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, every time I'm going to see Duke football now, I'm just going to think of Daniel Jones. I don't know why.
Yeah. David Cutcliffe, the quarterback whisperer.
All right.
Do you have a team?
On to the next one. Let's see here.
Who do you want?
I have.
Let's talk about.
You want to talk about Michigan State? Okay, we can talk about
Why
Michigan
don't we
State.
do it?
All right, yeah,
Yeah.
The school I'm heading to in the fall, on August 24th, I leave.
Right.
I take the plane up.
Right.
I had Michigan State at 17, and a lot of people didn't have them. Or they were a very interesting team to watch in these preseason polls, because some rankings had them not even ranked. But I think maybe it was Athlon, I think it was, but they had them like 16, and some teams had them as high as like 16, 15, 18. But some didn't have them like at all. So I think they're a quiet team, as always. I mean, Mark D'Antonio likes it that way. He likes the underdog mentality. But they have one of the most dominant, best defenses in the nation.
Yeah,
they all have returning guys. They got Joe Bakke. They got Kenny Willekes, Raekwon Williams.
Eight returning starters on that side of the ball.
Oh, that's going to be brutal. I think it's all 5 O-linemen are returning, and unfortunately for Michigan State, that's sometimes not a good thing. I don't think they have a great O-line, but when you have all 5 guys returning, and there was a lot of turnover on the offensive staff with Michigan State after how last year's offense kind of went down in the flames. It was not good. But their O-line and D-line, I mean, that's how you win in the Big Ten. O-line, D-line, you got a good running back in Connor Hayward. I think they're going to be really good. They got Cody White. But the key to their season is how Brian Lewerke responds this year, because last year, I mean, he had all the expectations in the world last year, and he looked good. Their first game was versus Utah State last year, and that was before everyone knew Utah State was really good, and it was a close one, but Lewerke looked good, and that's the last time he really looked like he had confidence. Because the year before, I think they had 10 wins, and everyone was saying, as a true freshman, how great Lewerke is. But this year's a make or break year for him, so we'll see what happens. I have them going 9-3. I have them losing to Ohio State, and Wisconsin,
Fair.
as well as Northwestern. But I think they beat Michigan.
Okay.
I think they beat Michigan. They don't beat Ohio State, but I think they beat Michigan. It's at the Big House too.
Last year's injuries make this one of the
Yeah.
nation's most experienced teams.
Mhm.
They returned 17 starters, 8 defensively, 9 offensively. The quarterback, Lewerke, what's his first name?
Brian Lewerke, yeah.
Brian. He was an NFL prospect in 17, but he got hurt.
Mhm.
And if he returns to form and the running back, as you mentioned, the O-line, avoid injuries, the offense is going to be vastly improved. And that defense, man,
Yeah, you can't get much better.
it's rough. I'm looking at the last 7 seasons. Just total sacks, 28, 28, 11, 37, 42, 32, 20.
11.
Jeez. Smart dogs, man.
Well, that year was
Yeah.
the year they bottomed out and went 3-9.
Yeah.
But all the other years,
Yeah.
11
42.
wins, 12 wins, they bottomed out at
Yeah,
3 and
20, man.
16.
Oh,
And
and
then they went back up to 10 and then 7.
I think it's interesting. The past couple of years, every time Michigan State has had a subpar year, the year after that they came back and won 10 plus games or 9 plus games. I think is there 2013 on there?
It goes back to 2014.
Okay,
But you have 16. They won 3 games. Next year they won 10.
Yep.
So
they had a subpar year last year. They have a good schedule. I could see them beating Wisconsin or Northwestern. I only have them losing to Wisconsin because it's the game right after Ohio State.
Right.
I think they definitely have the talent to beat Wisconsin and definitely the defense
the
because
defense is
the only thing that
among the
people talk
nation's
about
best.
with Wisconsin is Jonathan Taylor. So if they can helm or rein that guy in, I think Michigan State could easily
Right,
go
they
10-2.
They do have to face Ohio State and Wisconsin in back-to-back weeks,
I think
both
that's
on the road.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough.
Mhm.
And then they have to obviously go to Michigan. I think they could win that game.
I think I would if I want to go more realistic,
But
I would
other than
switch
those
Michigan
games,
and Wisconsin.
But other than those games, they're going to be favored in all their games, and I
Yeah.
don't see them
They have a
losing
good start, gain some
as long as they
confidence.
stay healthy.
Right. That's the biggest thing.
Um,
It's so hard to predict football because
Yeah.
of the injuries.
Something
just
you gotta-
never know.
You got to
never
do
know.
more week to week because all the injuries and things change.
yeah.
But it's fun to
It's
predict, so
something.
we're just gonna do it.
But it's
anyway.
fun to kind of.
yeah.
We're just kind of forecasting. We're not really
Yeah.
predicting.
Right.
So yeah, that goes all the way to 17, 16. We're about to enter the top 15. I have Wisconsin, so it's like I said, a lot of these teams are interchangeable. You have the Wisconsin Jonathan Taylors. They're
Heisman candidate.
yeah, for 3 years it seems like.
Yeah.
I think he has like 2,400 yards in his first 2 years. They're without a solid starter at quarterback because they lost Alex Hornibrook, right? And they have a QB battle right now with Graham Mertz and Jack Cohn, and they're battling it out right now for the right to throw it to AJ Tyler. It's a Big Ten team, so they always have a hard-nosed defense, like they always do in Madison. And I said they go 9-3. I think I have them losing to Ohio State, Michigan, and Nebraska, the 3 perceived heavyweights of the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, they're figured to have their defense back up to Wisconsin like standards.
Yeah.
But they do lose 4 veteran O linemen, which could be a good or a bad thing.
Yeah, Wisconsin always.
And they could be starting a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah, that's a big question mark.
So Jonathan Taylor is going to be huge.
Yeah.
If they have to rely on him, he's got to stay healthy.
Teams will be putting 8-9 in the
And
box.
He's got to find a way to produce consistently. But he's a Heisman candidate. He should be able
For
to
sure.
do that. This year they draw Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State.
Very favorable home schedule.
They've been the pick, the popular pick to win the Big Ten West the past couple of years. But now it's kind of a crapshoot. So
Yeah.
we'll just have to see. They play the toughest schedule in the Big Ten, I think.
Well, I have them. This next team that I guess we can talk about. This is my third. I'm only doing this because it's my third straight Big Ten team, and it fits into this conversation.
Yeah.
In Northwestern.
Might as well group them all.
Yeah, I really like Northwestern. And like I said, I could have Michigan State go into this easily, and I could have Northwestern falling back to 17-18 easily, or Wisconsin going into 17-18 easily. But I really like Northwestern because you always have the defensive-minded Pat Fitzgerald. leading that team.
Yeah.
And then usually when you have someone like a really good starter like Clayton Thorson was their quarterback the past couple of years, usually when you have a guy like that leave, you regress. They got Hunter Johnson, that former 5-star quarterback from Clemson who transferred out, and no one blames him after he lost the job to Trevor Lawrence because the way that guy's playing, he would beat out everybody.
Yeah.
And you have a passing attack that's high pointed by Bennett Skowronek. Yeah, I think that's right. 562 yards last year. You got a tough run game. They had that really good running back Isaiah Bowser, and he's coming back. And then you have that uber athletic and intelligent linebacker on that defense. His name is Patty Fisher, that a lot of people know now. You got Joe Gaziano on the D line, and I just really think that they're going to be pretty good this year. I say that the Wildcats are going to go 9-3 with losses to Ohio State, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. So when I said they're interchangeable, I literally meant they're all 9-3. So
All right, I'm gonna pass on Northwestern. I think they're gonna be, like you said, very formidable. Let's move on to sort of the teams kind of outside the top 10. So Washington, you have Washington, Notre Dame. We can talk a little bit about Utah,
Yeah, I actually have Ohio State a little higher up than you might think as well.
and then Nebraska, who you want to talk a lot about.
yeah,
So let's run
I'll go
through
through these quick. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I got the two Pac-12 teams I'm going to talk about: Utah and Washington.
You get to the top 10.
They're really interchangeable because you have the two of the top 3 teams in the Pac-12, Utah and Washington. You got Washington led by Jacob Eason. I believe he transferred out of Georgia after Drake Fromm left. Chris Peterson. You have an incredible offensive and defensive line play. You got receiver Aaron Fuller. I have them going 10-2 with losses to Arizona and Oregon because I still believe Arizona can strip some teams up, especially with Khalil Tate, who they bring back. And is Kevin Summons the coach? I think so.
I can look it up.
But I don't trust him, but I trust Khalil Tate. And then that's at 13. And at 14, I switched it. You got Utah. They're the favorites to win the Pac-12 or their division this year. Kyle Whittingham. You got, I believe it was 4 or 5 players in the ESPN Top 100. You got Bradley N.A. at the end and a tough defense. You got a solid offense and a great running back in Zach Moss. But I have the Utes going 10-2 with those losses being to the aforementioned Washington, as well as I have them also losing in a night game at Arizona.
Yep.
And then another team that I think is going to be is a little overrated right now, but a lot of people are predicting them to regress, is Notre Dame because Ian Book, although he comes back, right? I think so.
Mhm.
I think that I see them regressing a tad and going 10-2 with losses to Michigan and Georgia because they play a
Makes
wild
sense.
schedule. Their O-line is going to be strong, but you can't really replace Dexter Williams and Miles Boykin, as well as Chase Claypool, and you have So you have Chase Claypool and Chris Fink, but you're also losing Drew Tranquil, Jerry Tillery. You got a bunch of guys you're losing, as well as a tough schedule.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Any other comments on that before we move?
No,
to
let's
top
go.
10 plus.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head.
Nebraska.
They're really interesting. I mean, I've said that for like almost every team, but I really like Nebraska. A lot of people are saying they're their dark horse. Like I think it was 2 days ago on ESPN, they were talking about like dark horse CFP candidates,
Really?
and a lot of people had Nebraska, and I can totally see why. I mean, they're the prodigal son, Scott Frost, is leading them back into the promised land. You got Adrian Martinez. He looked like a Heisman candidate by the end of last year. You got Jalen Bradley, Miles Jones, J.D. Spielman on offense. You got senior defense led by Carlos Davis and Lamar Jackson and Eric Lee Jr. As well as they have – I was watching this guy's highlights right before, but Wandale Robinson.
Mhm.
He's going to be great. I said they have a favorable schedule because they have Ohio State, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Iowa all coming to Lincoln, where they have some crazy amount of sellouts. And I think the Huskers are going to go 11-1 with that single loss to the Buckeyes, but that's a toss-up because there's a lot of questions in Columbus. Yeah.
All right, keep going. Keep going on
behind
Oregon.
Nebraska.
I'm gonna get ready to talk about Florida, but
Got
you
it.
can go on
Yeah.
Oregon. And
Okay.
if you have anything to pitch in.
I want to talk about
Alright.
Oregon to begin with. Yeah.
Well, starts first and foremost with Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
He's going to be a projected top 3 pick, maybe even the top pick. Actually, no. I think 2.
Yeah, it's a tough year.
But I haven't seen him play, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to see him play at all last year, and it just seems like Oregon every year, everybody's high on them, and then they just kind of flop.
They disappoint a lot.
But-
yeah, they're a lot of show and sometimes not a lot of substance.
Yeah, but they've got speed, and speed kills. In the Pac-12, when you got playmakers all around the field, and a quarterback as good as Justin Herbert, then it's hard to not win games.
For sure. I mean, it's interesting to see that usually Oregon's known for their high-flying offense, and you got the explosive skill players. But this year they have a loaded defensive line, especially the offensive line with Shane Lamo, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Calvin Throckmorton, Penei Sewell, and then you have defense, Jordan Scott, all making Pac-12 preseason polls or teams, and then Troy Dye leading that defense from the linebacker position. I think the Ducks are going to march into that CFP hunt. They got arguably the number 1 recruit from the class of 2019, Kayvon Thibodeau. I think they march to the record of 11-1 with that loss. It was hard for me to pick a loss. They could easily go undefeated, but I have them losing to Colorado only because it's a Friday night and they have Laviska Shenault.
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Okay. You want to talk about Florida? We're entering the top 10. I had Oregon at 10, Nebraska at 11. We got
I have
Florida.
a crazy stat I just want to throw out about Florida. They have scored an NCAA record 385 straight games.
Wow.
They haven't been shut out since 1988.
Was Gatorade
Holy
a
moly.
thing?
That's hard to believe.
It
That's
is hard
actually
to
very hard to believe
like the
because they
Spurs
got some
making the
bad
playoffs.
offenses.
Oh,
But
Some
they've
very bad offenses.
scored points.
yeah.
Somehow, some way.
Maybe like 3.
This year, well, that's pretty impressive either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They returned just 5 starters on the offense, but one of them is quarterback Felipe Franks.
He's a stud.
He's a stud. 58% completions, 2,400 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And he can run. He rushed for 500 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Dual
So
threat.
he's dual threat, and he's got a huge arm. So he's not the most accurate, but he's got a huge arm.
And he
can
just has
throw
the
it
X
anywhere on the
factor. He has an
football
X
field.
factor.
Yeah, he definitely has a lot of talent. He's got to get that completion percentage up.
I think this year the offensive success is going to be determined on how quickly they can rebuild the O-line because they lost some of their key starters up front. I think that will be the key to their success offensively. They're still going to be one of the best defenses in the country. They returned 8 starters from last year.
Tyree Cleveland.
Last year, they held opponents to 51 yards per game under their season average.
That's good. That's
So
really good.
that's really
The
good.
Swamp.
Playing in the Swamp is tough. This year, they face a tougher schedule than last year. They have to face Miami, LSU, and Georgia all on the road.
Yeah.
But I think once again, that Georgia game, November 2nd, in Jacksonville, might once again decide who wins the SEC East and faces Alabama. for an SEC championship.
What record do you see them having?
Put me on the spot. I think they're gonna open up. I think they'll beat Miami.
Mhm.
At Kentucky's not easy either, but I think
But
they'll
they
win that
lost
game.
Penny Snow.
I think they'll win that game.
Yeah.
They'll beat Tennessee, beat Auburn. I think they might. I see them losing 2 games.
Me too.
2 games. That
Yeah.
LSU game
Yep,
and the
that's
Georgia
right.
game.
Yep. 10-2 losing to Georgia and LSU. That's exactly what I have.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's the outlook on Florida. But that stat is mind blowing.
Okay, do you want to? When you said that, it got me thinking. I'll go on a little it'll be 2 seconds.
Okay.
But don't look. But I'll ask Amy. But Okay, if you had to guess the two winningest franchises in the history or in the NBA in the 2010s, who would they be? The top two. One you might be able to get. One you definitely will not get. We don't. There doesn't have to be a conversation about this. This was just like
Spurs.
wild. Yeah, Spurs are number one with 559.
What are they?
Number one, the winningest team of the decade.
Wins?
Two, I think I'm gonna have to go with
Do you know their winning percentage?
the Thunder.
I would not have guessed that. Yeah,
This
the Thunder
dude-
are two.
This dude's an NBA.
Dude,
Yeah,
I follow the
They're-
NBA way too
that's
much. honestly.
that's insane. Yeah, it's the Spurs and the Thunder. That's such a
Wow.
crazy stat. Because you would think go. I
Do you
mean,
know
as
their
of
winning
late,
percentages?
yeah. San Antonio 69-5. So that's 70%.
69.
And then they have 44 more wins than the number two team in the Thunder. The Spurs had 559 wins in the decade, and OKC has 515.
OKC had some dominant
KD.
years. People forget.
Yeah,
They went 67. No, not 67. It was like 60.
I can look.
They were a consistent 60-win team for a couple years there. And there was that one year where Russ got hurt. That was their year to go to the finals.
Yeah, you
in
got
my
50,
opinion. I think
55, 47, 60, 59, 45, 55, 47, 48, 49. That's been their decade. That's insane.
And there's another
Yeah.
crazy stat. I've seen this on Twitter, and I've actually sent it to you a couple times. They've spent the least amount of days with the Spurs.
Yeah.
Have spent the least amount of days with a losing record in like over the past 20 years. It's like
That's insane.
40 some days in the past 20
We
years.
could get into all that, but I just wanted to bring that. That was just a crazy
where
thing
they've
that I
had
was
a
thinking
losing.
about.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so back to
Oh,
we got.
Before we move
yeah,
on,
yeah,
Tim
yeah,
Duncan
yeah.
hired as an assistant. What do you think?
I love it.
I
I
love it.
think just to see him back on the sideline.
Yeah.
It's
a big
good.
fundamental,
It's
man.
good
Yeah,
karma
it's good
just
for the
having them
team.
there. Just-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. All right.
Okay, at
Back
eight.
to football.
At 8. What do you think of
Honestly, he
LSU?
could still play if he wants.
Exactly. When he gets mad, he's just gonna put on his jersey and go back check in.
Aldridge, you suck.
He's like, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you what you should be doing.
Get,
Yeah.
get the ladder out. I gotta
Yeah.
get my jersey from the
Yeah.
rafters. I mean, there's a video. I don't know if you follow. No one follows the Spurs as much as I do.
Yeah,
Let's just get
understood.
that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you saw the video. Last year's training camp. There's a video of him dominating
Oh yeah.
LaMarcus Aldridge one-on-one in the post at 43 years old
Well, man, pick and choose.
in practice.
Pull a Jason Witten.
Like I said, dude, he could still play if he wanted
Yeah, he
to.
could pull
It's
Jason
just that he
Witten.
doesn't want to.
Yeah, he wants
Same
to-
with D Wade. Same
Yeah.
with not Dirk. That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, well, no, you can say the same for Melo, but he's still on an NBA roster.
Yeah,
He doesn't want to play. My guy's he's been dead for 4 years.
I was about to say Kobe, but no, actually
Yeah.
no. That's it.
How about you start us off with LSU? I'm gonna
Okay.
get to the.
So at 8, we got LSU, and then I think Florida and LSU are really going to decide the way of the SEC because I mean, like everybody, I have Georgia and Alabama winning being the two best teams in the SEC, but Florida and LSU are on the next tier, and I have them.
I'm sorry, my eyes just go straight to the Texas game, September 2nd.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Of
Austin.
course, I have them losing that. I have Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow looks like he's ready to lead LSU to their first dynamic offense since the Mettenberger days. And they,
Even
but
then, it wasn't that good.
yeah, they're backed by a tight defense with guys like Clavon Chase and Kerry Vincent, and you got skill guys on offense like Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall Jr. is looking to come back from a rocky freshman campaign. Then you got a solid line with Austin Deculus and Sadiq Charles, I believe. I have them going 10-2. I have them losing to UT. And I have them losing to Alabama. What do you
Good job.
think about that?
Okay, here's my deal with this, man. I'm not really buying into the hype with the offense, though, man.
Yeah, he didn't look great, man. He just didn't.
He doesn't. I'm gonna have to see it to believe it.
When your quarterback is a glorified defensive coordinator in Ed Orgeron, it's hard to make that offense work. especially with the offense that's been that average for
They
a half a decade.
they're switching their system. They're going to a more spread system.
Yeah.
But doesn't matter if you just don't have the quarterback to get it to your playmakers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, this year, go ahead, finish.
Joe Burrow is solid. I'm not saying
Yeah,
he's
no
bad.
arguing
I'm
that.
not saying I'm not going to go that far. I'm just saying that in big games, it just seems like he's not able to throw into tight windows.
Yeah.
And I saw even in the US UCF game or even early in that game.
Yeah,
mostly.
pick six. He was looking lost
Yeah.
out there. I mean, he came back and he shredded.
Right.
But,
right.
You know,
But he's
not
very
all
streaky.
defenses are
I'll
UCF.
give him that. He's very streaky.
I agree with Mason. Obviously.
UT friend.
They're going to be experienced. 8 offensive returners, 8 defensive returners.
That's good.
So that's a good sign. I think Burrows is not going to be as much of a game manager as he was like last year because they do get most of their starters back offensively, most of their weapons back. Their D line doesn't have it's not star-studded, but it's very experienced.
You always have really
Very
good
veteran,
yeah.
and they have one of the best secondary groups in the country. Like
Always.
they always do.
Always.
The only real competition to UT for DBU.
Yeah. The biggest question marks are road trips to UT and Alabama. Other than that,
That's what I have them
think
losing.
You're gonna run the table.
But
Could go 11-2.
let's see the schedule.
So it's Georgia Southern, the UT game. Win.
Watch out for that Auburn game.
Yeah,
Win.
Auburn will be scrapping for that win too.
Right before Alabama.
Yeah, that's champion for sure. Before a bye week, yeah.
Coming off a bye might help against Alabama,
Wow.
but it's Alabama.
Alabama. Oof. Okay. Well, that's LSU.
At 7, I have OU. I have. I think Lincoln Riley's gonna.
OU.
Well, first, do you guys want to have, or do you want to have the 1-minute discussion of, do you think Lincoln Riley will be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys in 2021 or 2020?
You answer that. You're Cowboys.
Do you think that will happen? I am too. I want it to happen. I hate Lincoln Riley because he's at OU, but I'd love him if he was on the Cowboys.
I'll say that he's a great coach, but I just don't like the fact that Jerry Jones just seems to always copy trends. You know.
Yeah.
Remember the Morris Claiborne pick the
Yeah.
year after the
Yeah.
Cardinals got Patrick
Yeah.
Peterson. Like it was just a copy. It's just a copycat.
Yeah. I would like the copycat move
I
because
mean,
the whole NFL is going that way. You got because of McVay, and
Mhm.
if Cliff Kingsbury can get an NFL head coaching job, I really hope Lincoln Riley can.
I'll say this.
Do you
If-
want it to happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
But if they can win this year, let's win this year.
Yeah,
Because
I
this
agree.
is it. This is it right here. It
I
doesn't
agree.
matter what we have next year because next year who
We can't
knows
pay
who's
anyone,
going to
yeah.
leave. We're not going to be able to pay everybody.
Yeah.
So this is it. If we want to win, like our window is right now. So
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
I hate
Okay.
to talk about OU, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna give
me
them their due respect.
I mean, you
This-
haven't even
Everybody
stepped a
hates
foot
you.
on campus yet.
Yeah, that is,
Everybody
Well,
hates you.
well, not-
Right,
not-
OU.
that's true. I know what you mean.
Everybody
So
hates OU.
they won Big 12 championship, made the playoff, trailed Bama 28-0 at half, ended up losing 45-34. This year, second straight Heisman winner leaves,
Same.
and Kyler Murray. Oh, remember last year on the same podcast,
Oh, yeah.
he predicted.
Yeah, it's
Kyler
midway
Murray
through the year. He didn't even
winning
make
the
that jump
Heisman.
yet.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when we're finished with this, he's going to do his Heisman
Okay,
prediction
cool.
for
Yeah.
this year. So anyway, this year they lose Kyler Murray and 4 offensive line starters.
That's big because he was huge. They were huge, literally and figuratively, for Kyler Murray.
they drop in terms of experience. Only 4 returners offensively, 8 defensively. But why does it matter? Defense sucks anyway.
Yeah, they were horrible until they
Um,
fired Mike Stoops, and then they were also horrible after him.
But apparently they're favored in all 12 games. Riley has proven to be a quarterback whisperer with Mayfield, and
Yeah, you don't need to do much when you have those guys.
That's true. That's true. And he has a new quarterback in Jalen Hurts that's
Jalen Hurts.
24-2 as a starter. So
Can't lie.
not bad.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's like people are gonna say that he doesn't have the talent that he did at Alabama. You got C.D. Lamb, you got Charleston Rambo, you got Grant Calcaterra,
Yep,
you
that's
got
definitely.
Kennedy Brooks. It's gonna be as good, if not better.
Yeah, it's not better. Definitely. That definitely won't be the issue. The issue is always just going to be that defense.
Yep.
Is
Yeah,
it
fix
better? Is it good enough?
hard to
Can
be
they
worse.
just get? Can
Yeah.
they just get a couple stops
Yeah.
every once in a while?
Maybe 2 a
Like
game.
just
That
stop
offense
somebody
is-
one
yeah.
time, once or twice. But I think the how far this team can go will be depending on 2 things: whether they can force turnovers,
Yeah.
and whether Jalen Hurts can buy into the Lincoln Riley system.
For sure.
I think Lincoln Riley will adjust his system a little bit for him, for his strengths. They'll do a little bit more power run with the quarterback
Yeah.
since he's such a big dude. But I think this team will be really good. I think they have a chance to go undefeated if they can get by
The 3rd straight quarterback from the state of Texas.
Fair.
You got Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. Think of this. Their 3rd transfer quarterback. That's wild to think about. This is their
That's
3rd
wild.
transfer quarterback in a row. Baker from Tech, Kyler from A&M, and you got
Trevor Knight.
Trevor Knight. He went to A&M, yeah. He went from OU. So 3 of their. So they're past 3. So I guess it's like 3 of their past 5. But their past 3 quarterbacks, 2 of which were Heisman winners, were transfers. That's weird.
Yeah,
That's an
that's
odd thing
really
that just like
weird.
came to me. And I hope for the sake of my life that this one's not as successful as the past.
Okay, so your next 2 teams are Michigan and
Yeah,
Ohio
I have the
State.
2.
So we'll just talk about them together.
Yeah. For sure. You can start because I've been talking about.
Well, I gotta see their schedule.
Okay.
You go ahead.
I mean, I didn't have a lot of notes because I know Ohio State. At 6, I have
They got
Michigan.
Shea Patterson, right?
They have Shea Patterson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Tariq Black. You got a really good offense,
Yeah.
which is odd for a Michigan team.
Horrible.
Harbaugh has not had a great offense any year he's been there. But this year's the year. I say that I think they'll be so on the warpath to finally get that win versus Ohio State. That's why I have them tripping up versus Michigan State. Mainly because I'm a Michigan State homer, because I'm going there. But I think it's going to be really easy for them to look at their schedule, get past the first couple of games, and say, we just need to beat Ohio State. And I think they're gonna become. They're gonna get that tunnel vision.
Right.
Exactly, and then I think that I see them getting into a dogfight with Michigan State, like it always is. And I see them losing to Michigan State, and I see them going. Who knows what they do in the Big Ten championship game? Because I would probably still get them there. But
That would
we'll
be
see.
devastating.
I see that happening, and I have them beating Ohio State. I have them winning. It's just I think that they're going to lose to that Michigan State.
Yeah, that key stat. Harbaugh's 2-7 versus Ohio State,
That's
Michigan
brutal.
State, and Notre Dame. But he
And
gets
they're
all
coming.
3 of those games at home
Yep.
this year.
In the big house, they're coming for that Ohio State game so hard. I think that's going to go to the
That's a
detriment.
must win.
Yeah, it's a
That's a
must win,
must
and they may
win.
win it, but at what cost?
Sound like
Yeah.
Thanos over here.
They have.
I'm not sure I understand.
What is going on? My Avalanche does not know what Thanos
they,
is.
they have
Yeah.
they have 13 returning starters. So
Yeah.
that's 8 offensively, 5 defensively. So we'll just have to see. And Ohio State, obviously.
Yeah, Amy, you said something about Ohio State. What did you think about that?
It's so hard to predict when you got a new
It
quarterback.
really is.
But
Another transfer.
you got to remember they lost their head coach.
Yep.
Mhm.
Urban Meyer, man.
New coach Ryan
Thankfully,
Day.
that man's gone.
Ryan Day will be the new
Poisoned
coach.
the NCAA. And he's a teacher. My brother might have a class taught by Professor Meyer.
Wow.
Oof.
That'd be
Lucky.
weird.
That would be weird.
Unlucky
That would be
him.
very
I
weird.
wouldn't
That
like
would
him
be
as a
very,
teacher,
very
yeah.
weird.
After what he's done at
Uh,
Florida, I don't want to bring up some of that stuff.
Nope.
No one does. Horrible
Yeah.
guy. Horrible person, but great coach. Doesn't excuse anything, but
Yeah. You just gotta question morals sometimes. But back to business.
yeah.
It's my gut is just telling me they're just not gonna be it this year.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
I know they got players all over the field, so it's just so
Young,
hard.
yeah.
They lost Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
That's one big
They got
thing.
Chase Young.
They lost Dwayne Haskins, but and they lost Mike Weber.
Yeah, that's big. That's
Cowboys.
underrated. Yeah, you got J.K. Dobbins, but you lost Weber.
Mhm.
Who's on the Cowboys now?
So the running back depth might be a question, but as always, they got a great offensive line.
Mhm.
But it's just tough when you lose your quarterback, and you. Y'all got anything to add? I don't. It's just a gut feeling. I don't have any real analysis on this.
Well, defensively, they have 5 starters back. Last year, they allowed 6 runs of 70 or more yards and lots of big plays. That was their
Remember,
problem.
Maryland
Yeah.
had them on the ropes.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
went for
I
that
remember
2-point conversion, and Maryland obviously or
They
didn't get
allowed
it.
403 yards per game.
They
was
lost to
their-
Purdue.
That was their worst in 50 plus years. And 26 points per game if you round it up, most since 1998. This year, they returned with 9 starters, and I expect them to be much tougher defensively and return to the 2014-2015
Yeah.
form where they allowed just 17 points per
Ugh, I don't even want to think about how good that team was. Those
So they'll be
teams.
better defensively. They're going to run more with obviously a more mobile quarterback in Fields at quarterback. Defense will only improve, I think, after allowing 403
Yeah.
yards per game.
Yeah, Okuda, Browning, Chase Young, like I said.
The Big East, the Big Ten East figures to once again come down to games against Michigan. That game
Yep,
against
that's the
Michigan.
game that's going to decide it. And I have Michigan winning. Yeah.
Woo! Finally.
That's 5.
Finally.
And then, Mark, you want to talk about UT first?
Well,
Where would you have them? If you ranked in the top 10, would you have them where I have them at 4?
not that high.
Where would you have them?
I probably have them 9 or 10.
You say Michigan, Ohio State, and OU, and LSU.
8, 9, or
are ahead
10
of
in
them?
that range. 8 to 10 range.
Okay.
I'd say I'd have them right around 7.
I think
7,
7's
8.
good because I have them. I think they're better than OU. I really do. I think they're better than OU.
Yeah, I think they match up well with OU.
And they may not have a more imposing roster, but you look at their schedule, and I see them going 12 now.
Really?
I do. I
know
think
about
they
that.
beat OU. I think they're going to beat OU because the
I would
only
like
thing
that.
I think, yeah, obviously I like it, but I mean it's Sam Ehlinger's year, man. Talking about Heisman candidates, this guy's at the end of the year, I voted like they said last year. I put Kyler Murray halfway through the year. I said he was the Heisman when nobody was talking about him. I mean, everyone was talking about him, but not as a Heisman winner. I have Sam Ehlinger being second this year, just because no one will ever be able to beat Trevor Lawrence. Because although if Tua got to play a whole year and got to play in more than 3/4 of a game, he may win Heisman. But Alabama doesn't produce Heisman-winning quarterbacks. They produce running backs because they don't really bench him. But Nick Saban does not go for those Heisman numbers. So I think in Manhattan, I'll just go with my quick little Heisman tangent. I have 3. I got Tua. 2. I got Sam Ehlinger, and I have Trevor Lawrence winning it because he's
Yeah,
the
he's a
best
star.
player in the NCAA.
Is the Zion of college
yeah.
football?
Not a
And
bad prediction.
I'll stop talking about that. But I have Sam Ehlinger coming back with the poignant passing attack with Colin Johnson and Devin Duvernay with a really deep receiving core, and you have for the first time in like a decade, UT has a good to great offensive line with Sam Cosmi, Kerstetter, and you have that transfer coming in, Parker Braun. Shackelford, preseason first team.
Yeah.
You got Parker Braun coming in. You got freshman phenom running back. The biggest question was that running back, but you have Keontae Ingram, but then you have this freshman phenom in Jordan Whittington, who's kind of an uber athlete, who's the 5-star out of Cuero near San Antonio, I think.
Supposed to have Brew McCoy, but he went back to.
That's a different story.
Yeah, that's a rough.
Going in with that transfer portal stuff. And they're going to have a really solid defense, mainly led by in the back with Brandon Jones and Caden Stearns and BJ Foster and Anthony Cook and Jalen
I
Green.
like it.
So many good DBs. You got Ayodele Adeoye at linebacker. You got you have a really good depth at D-line. You got Keandre Coburn, DeAndre Christmas. I think he's still there. And you have a really deep team. You have a team with not a lot of holes, and you have a good schedule. You have at SU, which is key at home. At home.
We don't have to play Maryland the first week.
Yeah, which is big. We don't have to play. We finally get a
Lost to Maryland 2 straight years.
Yeah.
First week of the year.
They finally get a break the first game of the year. Well, I don't know. Is it Watek?
Before they lost to Maryland at home in 2017,
Yep.
they had won 17 straight home openers.
Yeah.
But this year they play Louisiana Tech.
Hopefully they get that one. I have them going 12-0. That's what
I think they'll beat LSU.
Yeah.
I think they'll beat Rice. They'll beat Oklahoma State.
At West Virginia is tough.
But who does West Virginia have? They lost everybody.
Here's the thing,
I
though.
think they'll win that game, but it's going to be close.
Morgantown too. So
Oklahoma.
it's a toss-up.
I understand talent-wise why you see them 1-12-0, but the direction of this team, how inconsistent they've been the last few years.
Yeah.
I just think they'll slip up once or twice this year.
I think just the path of Ellinger's maturity and how it seemed destined from the beginning.
Right.
It could lead to some problems, but I think his problems were behind him last year. I think what you're thinking of is exactly what happened versus Oklahoma State. Texas went in kind of looking ahead. They were doing bad after they lost to West Virginia, I think it was, and then they lost to Oklahoma State in an ugly game. And I think that's what people say when they mean like slipping up, and I think that's what you mean. And that may happen again this year.
But even Texas Tech, they won that game, but it was they didn't play well at all.
They didn't. Yeah, they had to get a game-winning touchdown. They let Jet Duffy come in.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by and I know West Virginia lost everybody, but Texas Tech didn't have a very good team either. And when you're going on the road, it's always tough to win on the road.
Yeah, Texas was horrible on the road. Yeah.
I think their over/under is 9.5.
I got over,
Yeah.
but
I got over. I think they're gonna win. How many games are you?
There's 12.
12. I see them winning 10, maybe 11.
Yeah, that's fair.
I got them winning 10
It all.
or 11. 10 maybe. Yeah.
They're gonna lose. I think they're gonna beat LSU. Probably lose to OU. I'm sad to say that, but
Do you have them in the Big 10 or Big 12 championship
yeah,
game
of course.
versus OU?
Versus OU.
And you have them
I
so
think
a reflection, a reverse of last year.
Yeah.
So lose regular season,
I think they're gonna.
but you win
I think they're gonna win the Big 12 championship.
Does that get them into the college football playoff? Because now we're in the college football playoff territory. So top 6 teams is argument. You see Ohio State getting in over them. If Ohio State's only loss is to Michigan, I can see them getting in ahead of Texas. But
Okay.
Yeah, fine. Wow.
Yeah. I think.
It's so hard. I've got them losing to LSU. But I think that will be Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But watch out for TCU.
Oh, I know what I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
Watch out for
Gary
Kansas State
Patterson's
as
always
well.
They had a lot of close games last year that could have gone the wrong way, but went the right way. And the reason they went the right way, and the reason they won, was because UT didn't turn the ball over.
And they're
a
disciplined.
whole lot.
You got Tom
They're
Herman.
disciplined.
Yep, Todd Orlando.
So
It's just not going to happen with those.
their average margin of victory was 5 points.
Yeah.
So they were in a lot of close games.
But they lost to who they lose to? They lost to Oklahoma State. They lost to OU. They lost to West Virginia,
They lost to Maryland.
and they lost to Maryland by a
Yeah,
combined
those are
total of less than 20 points, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So they won a lot of close games, but the only games they lost, did they get blown up by any team?
No,
Maybe that Big 12 championship, but
Yeah.
they lost. They definitely wasn't a blowout, but
they were in every game. And
they were in every game,
They
and they
won
lost
some close games, but that was because they're disciplined and they didn't
I think
turn the ball over.
I think it's
Allinger only
optimistic.
threw 5 picks last year.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and he had the longest streak in the Big 12
yeah.
for
That's
without
it.
throwing a pick until Kansas. But I really do see now that you say that, I think at least we beat them.
Yeah, that's
I'm-
true.
I think that. I mean, I may be a little over optimistic in predicting them 12-0, but you can say that for every team that's going to be 12-0
I
who
think it's
isn't
definitely-
Alabama or Clemson.
It's definitely 10 or
Um,
11. It just depends on
They will slip
LSU
one
and
game.
Oklahoma.
I think it's going to be a game that people don't expect.
Yeah,
But-
anything under 10 is disappointing. That's
Yeah.
that's a failure.
Yeah, that's
anything
the-
under 10 is a failure.
It's your third year as a
But-
coach. That's the expectation. Yeah.
If their only loss or their only losses, I think they're going to win one of the two. But if their only losses to either LSU or Oklahoma and they win the rest of the games and they don't slip up anywhere else, I could definitely see them being in at least a conversation.
What
for
loss would look
college
better,
football playoff.
LSU or OU? I say OU because you'd have a chance to beat him later in that year.
OU because you
You
have
can
a
beat 'em.
chance to beat them in the Big 12 championship.
So it could
Yeah.
hurt you, but it's your own destiny.
LSU's a home game.
Yeah, so they should win that. They shouldn't. I mean, they shouldn't chalk it up, but they should win that game.
And in early season home games against ranked teams in the past couple of years, they've been really good.
Yeah.
They
Beat
whooped
USC last year.
USC.
TCU.
They whipped TCU.
That was their comeback.
And a couple of years ago, they had that crazy game against Notre
Notre
Dame,
Dame. Oh, Tyron Swoops.
50-47 in double
Remember
overtime
that was the
Against
first
the
call of we're back. Do you
Again-
think Texas is back?
against the number 10 team in the
I
country.
mean, do you think they're back?
Yeah, I think they're back.
They're back.
They're back, but they got to prove it.
For sure. Yeah.
Here's what I'll say.
They have a lot of prove it games.
Come back and ask me on about halfway through the year, so after the Oklahoma
After
game.
OU
and,
won.
and I'll tell you if they're a national championship
Yeah.
or not,
OU
or
part
college
one.
football playoff
Caliber.
caliber
Yeah.
or not.
For sure.
Yeah, we'll know what they're made of after
So
LSU.
after
For sure.
after their first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So after the first 6, that's the season pretty much. I mean, you can overlook, but if you've beat,
Yeah, just don't overlook any of the others, and
Yeah.
they should be fine.
but you'd be able to tell what that team's capable of after the first 6.
Just come into every game ready to go, be
I-
disciplined.
Isn't that right when college football playoff
Don't turn the
rankings
ball
come out? After like week 4 or 5?
I think they start doing it around like mid-October
That's like
Because
6 or right after
because
the OU game.
the season ends in November, and then bowl games start.
So yeah, right after the OU game, that's when we'll really decide what the CFP thinks.
And
committee.
we'll have you back on the podcast. by
Yeah.
then.
And we talked about this team a lot
Well,
because
wait,
Well, no,
when we're all
it's not.
home, we can
Yeah.
do one. But
um,
I mean, I'll be here.
yeah, I'll be back for Thanksgiving.
Life's about to change a lot.
That's right.
Oh,
I mean, I think the big reason we talk about Texas a lot is because the 3-2-1 is pretty standard with Georgia, Alabama, and then Clemson. Because,
Mhm.
okay, so, I mean, if you guys don't have any objections to that, do you guys have any
I
major
don't have any
objections?
objections.
So then what do you, we can just do like a quick CFP, and then I gotta go after that. But like,
Okay, and then we're gonna do. I'm really excited to do 5 NFL teams with the most approved in 2019. I'm really excited for that. After you,
So
if you
quick
want
little
to,
thing.
if you want to go.
So what do you guys
go,
think?
But
do you have,
we can do
who
this.
would you go, okay, we'll do who we predict in the CFP.
Okay.
And then you can go ahead and finish your bracket when you say it.
Okay.
Clemson and Alabama are locks. All agree?
Yeah. So it's
Clemson,
gonna be
Alabama,
whoever's
locks.
playing those two teams. Do you have Clemson at 1?
Yes.
Yep, I
Clemson
will-
at 1.
Because they play in the ACC,
Yep.
and the ACC is not going to be a tough conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone has
Clemson
Clemson
at
at 1.
1.
Bama at 2.
Bama at 2.
Everyone has Bama at 2. Do you have Georgia at 3?
Yes.
Yes.
I got Georgia at 3.
We all have the first 3, so it's
kind of like the past.
Georgia,
Who's number
Bama.
4? Who's number
That
4?
yeah,
kinda
it's the
like all
same
past
thing
years.
every year. Yeah.
Who's number 4?
So okay, the teams that could be in it: UT, Ohio State, Michigan,
Okay.
Oklahoma. I don't see LSU or Florida, but maybe Nebraska. Think about Nebraska. If they have the one game they could lose is Ohio State, and they have it in Lincoln.
But think about the history of the committee, though. They don't normally lean towards teams with a weak schedule.
If you beat Ohio State, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Iowa, I don't know, because since you have to win, you'd have to beat Ohio State twice,
Yeah,
which may
you
not
would.
happen.
You
So
would.
I think the Big
But
Ten
I don't think that would
is
happen.
not good. The Big Ten is not good for a playoff team. I don't think they are, just because of the way, because of how
It's
Michigan
set up.
State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State are all in the same division. That basically negates them from getting any of those teams in
Right.
because of the fact that they're going to have to play those teams twice.
I don't think.
Or they would. Sorry, what am I talking about? They don't have to play those teams twice. They'd have to play Nebraska or Northwestern at the end of the year, and they're both tough. So
I don't think. I think Michigan's gonna beat Ohio State this year.
yeah, me too. I have that.
I think they have the edge over Ohio State if it were to come
Me
down to
too.
that.
I say Michigan is a better chance.
Yeah.
Has a better chance than Ohio
Right.
State.
I think it's gonna come down to Michigan, UT, and another team. Maybe.
Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Maybe.
So UT, OU. So basically, the winner of the Big 12. The winner of the Big
Probably.
12.
Probably.
Because if any of those teams split 1-1, they're not in. So it's
But
one of those teams is gonna have to go 2-0.
if OU sweeps or Texas sweeps both games.
Yeah. If the team that sweeps that gets in, do we agree? If they don't split it and there's a team that goes undefeated, including the sweeping of that other team, they get in.
I agree with
The
that.
strength based on the strength of schedule, obviously UT with LSU, OU's strength of schedule is not good. So I think
So
UT is a better case.
let's just run through the scenarios since we can't decide on a fourth team. So it would be we have Clemson 1. They would
Yeah.
face the 4 team.
they would
Let's
face
say
UT or Michigan.
UT or
I say the
Michigan.
top two are UT and Michigan with Ohio
and then
State.
on the other
OU
side,
outside.
you would have Clemson and Georgia.
So isn't it Alabama, Georgia versus
would it?
Clemson, UT?
Is it 1-3 or
Isn't it 1-4, 2-3?
it is?
Yeah. So UT versus Clemson, or
you're
sorry,
right.
UT slash
Sorry,
Michigan.
I mixed up
Yeah.
Bama.
So Georgia, who do you have winning Georgia, Bama? So we can get that. So we just decide on the other side. Georgia or Bama? I don't know, man.
Oh,
Dude, it's a coin flip.
Yeah.
It's literally still July, man. I don't-
Who's Bama's backup quarterback?
Georgia
Isn't it
had
2
him,
straight years that Georgia's have lost to the backup quarterback?
Georgia
of
had
Bama?
him on the ropes. And
Until Hurts came in.
Tua hurt himself,
That's what lost him the Heisman
and Hurts came in
and saved the day
and saved
somehow.
the day.
Somehow.
Georgia's
I-
really good.
I say Georgia's on the revenge tour this year.
I would give the edge to Bama, but I would not be surprised at all if Georgia won that.
Betting line gonna be Bama. Who do I win just because I want it to happen? Georgia. I say Georgia wins that game.
It could go either way.
Yeah, that's a coin flip, dude. That's,
Yeah,
that is so many months away. I can't even.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true. We're
My
just
mind is-
forecasting.
So
Just forecast.
who we can all make our picks for the 14. So starting with you, you on.
It's hard for me to see a scenario with Texas in there. I'm sorry.
I know, yeah, it's like totally,
It's
yeah.
I go with, as of now. I go with Michigan.
Michigan, okay. You have them beating Michigan State and Ohio State because they have both those games at the Big House. They do. They have a clear path. They have a real clear
For
path.
right, it will change, but for right now, sure.
Amy,
I'm gonna go to Oklahoma.
okay. Well, okay. The only thing that I could see that the
Could happen.
obstacle
I'm not
is their
gonna-
strength
I'm
of
not gonna
schedule.
argue with you. But
Who does
I just
OU
wouldn't like
play?
that.
It's them or Michigan.
Okay, yeah.
It's between those three teams.
You see OU beating UT twice
I think it's a
because that's essentially what that's why it's hard for any Big 12 team.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Michigan.
They play Houston.
That's a safer pick.
That's not an easy game. If they win that, okay.
Oh, you play Houston?
I was concerned that OU may not have the strength of schedule to get in, even if they're undefeated. But if you beat Texas twice, that's kind of a moot point. But if you beat Houston, that's a win.
Yep. Definitely.
But yeah, are you gonna go with OU? I mean, no one's
No.
arguing,
I'm
but
going Michigan. I'm not going to argue with
Michigan's a safe pick, to be honest.
Yeah, Michigan's a safer pick. Now that I think about it, they can't beat a team twice with that defense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and with there's gonna be a lot of up and down with Jalen Hurts, even though he's a veteran presence. You got to learn a whole new playbook, coming with new receivers. It's gonna
Yeah.
be up and down.
Clearly, I am not a college football guy.
You're good. Like
But-
we're the ones that have been watching Big 12 for 18 years, my whole
Yeah.
life.
It was nice having you on.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah.
You did say Trevor Lawrence for Heisman, so
Yep. Hey, get that pick in.
not a bad one at
Yeah,
all. I probably
it's
agree
not
with
some dark horse.
you. No, it's
yeah.
not like Kyler Murray last year, but it was great having you on.
Thank
We'll
you.
definitely have you back on in the future if we have a
Yeah.
break off school.
Yeah. Oh,
and
no,
we can talk
Thanksgiving,
about
yeah,
what's happened.
for sure.
We'll definitely have you back, but
Thank you so much.
yeah.
I'll let you guys talk about NFL before I talk anymore.
All right, man.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Peace up.
See you later.
Hey, see you guys.
Yep.
Roll out.
All right, so
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this. We're gonna do 5 NFL teams that have the most to prove. I made a list. I don't know if you made a list or just have them in your head, but if you want to start us off with a team, you can. I'm going in order 5 to 1. I don't know what you're gonna do, but
I've got no particular order, but I've got 5 teams in my head. First team I have in my head is the Falcons.
okay.
They went 7-9 last year. Matt Ryan in particular, he's got to go prove what he's about, man. He's coming off that Super Bowl. People were expecting a lot from this team, and they didn't step up to the plate. I mean, I know they had a ton of injuries. That was unfortunate, but I mean, it has to be next man up. You know, it has to be that kind of mentality. And the reason they have the most to prove is just simply because I think if it doesn't go right this year, Dan Quinn is going to be on the hot seat. So it's right now, man. I mean, you're going to have to pay Julio. You already gave Matt Ryan the big bucks, obviously. And this is it. I mean, this team is not getting any younger. They still have what's the name of that linebacker? Is it Smith?
Deion
Jones. Deion Jones. Keanu
Neal.
Neal. Keanu Neal.
Safety. Yeah.
I'm rusty right now. I know all these names, right? I just
Well, why do you
Think.
think of what you're gonna say? I'll go 5 and 4.
okay. Go ahead.
I don't know if my number 5 team is as much as I'm excited to see them as if they have a lot to prove, but I think they do. I think my number 5 team is the San Francisco 49ers. And the reason I say that is because they had a very underrated offseason. Let's look at their free agent additions. D4, defensive end, Kansas City. You pair him with rookie Nick Bosa on the edge. Last year, D4, 13 sacks, 42 tackles, 7 forced fumbles, 13 tackles for loss, and 6 quarterback hits. They pick up the linebacker, a guy I really, really like, one of the top linebackers in the league, Quan Alexander. Very overlooked,
Right.
to put in the middle of that defense. He missed games last year because he tore his ACL, and that kind of hurt Tampa Bay's defense. But in the 3 years before that, he combined for 237 tackles, 25 tackles for loss, and 15 sacks. So he's legit.
Right.
They add Tevin Coleman to go along with Matt Breida in the backfield from Atlanta. Coleman can run and catch. 167 rushes for 800 yards, 4 touchdowns, 32 catches for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Right.
That's-
And he showed last year he can be a featured back without Devontae Freeman.
That's a big asset, and they already have George Kittle, who's a star at tight end.
Right.
And they're getting Garoppolo back, which I'm about to mention. But and in the draft, they drafted Nick Bosa, who in 3 years at Ohio State, obviously he missed a lot of last year, sat out. But in 3 years, 77 tackles, 29 tackles for loss, 17 and a half sacks, 2 forced fumbles, top 3 prospect in the draft. They add him to an already strong defensive line with D Ford. And then they drafted a receiver I really like out of South Carolina in Debo Samuel. And they have Jimmy Garoppolo coming back in his 10 starts. He's 8-2, 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a 100 QBR. He's got something to prove, but they've been injured a lot the past 2 years. 19 players went on injured reserve last year, and the year before that they had 22 players go on injured reserve. So they've been injured a lot, but now they have everyone healthy. I don't see an excuse why this team, even if they don't make the playoffs, I don't see an excuse why they don't win 8 games this year. 8 or more games.
Yeah.
I have high expectations for San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then my number 4 team, like you mentioned, is Atlanta. I think they have one of the most, I don't know, I'm not going to rank them right now because I'm a little rusty, but one of the most talented offensive weaponries in the league. Matt Ryan completed about 70% of his passes last year, 4,900 yards, 35 touchdowns, 7 picks. And then you have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, who I'm looking to break out in his second year, and then Mohamed Sanu at receiver to go along with Devontae Freeman. He's got to stay healthy, but he's good when he's healthy. And Austin Hooper at tight end. That's an offense.
Yeah.
Their weakness last year was their offensive line, but they used their 2 first-round picks on 2 offensive linemen, and they brought in another Pro Bowl offensive lineman from the Jets, James Carpenter, and they still have their Pro Bowl center in Alex Mack. So their offensive line is going to be healthy. If their offensive line's healthy, I think it's going to be improved, and there's no reason the offense isn't good enough to get them back in the playoffs.
Right.
And they're very talented up front defensively.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned. So
The key is going to be limiting big plays.
if I had to choose a team that didn't make the playoffs last year to make it back to the playoffs this year, it would definitely be the Falcons.
It's them or the Panthers in that division to take the
I'm
next
not really
take
high on
a
the
step,
Panthers.
but
I would say
I would pick the
Yeah.
Falcons over the Panthers for sure. I
So
was just
you-
saying those are the
Yeah,
2 teams
yeah.
that have a chance
Yeah.
to make a step.
not the Buccaneers.
Uh, definitely not.
They're kind of a joke.
Yeah.
But do you have another team in mind? If you don't, I can go.
Yeah. You can go right ahead.
Okay. Number 3 on my list is the Chargers. And the reason why I say that, I know they went 12-4 last year, but it's because Phillip Rivers in the postseason hasn't been very good. I'll just ramble off some numbers. Postseason stats, he's playing 11 postseason games. He's 5-6, so almost 500. 59% of his passes, 2,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, average QBR at about 84. So he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been horrible. But he just hasn't had the success. He's only been to 1 career AFC Championship game in 2008 or 2007 against New England. And in that game, he completed 50% of his passes, 211 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 picks. 46.1 QBR. Not good at all.
Yeah.
The list of quarterbacks with a better career playoff winning percentage than Phillip Rivers, who have made a minimum of 10 starts. I did that because if I didn't, Blake Bortles would be on this list. Patrick Mahomes would be on this list, and they just haven't had a lot of experience, and I just don't think that would be fair.
Blake
to
Bortles
Phillip
and Patrick
Rivers.
Mahomes in the
Because
same
if I
sentence.
did, Matt Schaub actually has a better playoff winning percentage than Phillip Rivers, and I didn't want to mention that.
Yeah.
But with a minimum of 10 starts, here's the list of quarterbacks with a better career playoff winning percentage than Phillip Rivers: Brady, Flacco, Tom Brady, Joe Flacco, Eli Manning, Nick Foles, Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Andrew Luck. All those guys have been to a Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl except for Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
So I just think he needs to prove that he can get this team where they want to go in the postseason. But I will say they've been haunted by injuries. Melvin Gordon's missed 10 games in 4 years. Keenan Allen's missed 26 games in 6 years. Hunter Henry obviously was out last year, the tight end.
Yeah.
He missed 19 games in his past 3 seasons. Mike Pouncey's been hurt some. Obviously, Joey Bosa's had some injury
Yeah, and
problems.
they had like 5 centers get hurt last year. That was insane.
So I think if they stay healthy, they can definitely get where they want to go. It just depends on Philip Rivers.
Right.
If
Yeah.
he can lead them in the
Definitely Philip
playoffs.
Rivers. Is that it?
I can go on to number 2. My
Uh,
number
I-
2.
I have my next team.
Okay.
My next team is going to be the Packers.
Okay.
Matt LaFleur is a new hire, but to me, it's Aaron Rodgers. It's a legacy year. He missed the playoffs for the first time in his career, I think. No. His first year as a starter, I don't think he made it.
No.
But that's not
Yeah.
that's not
really count
relevant.
against
Yeah,
you.
that doesn't count against him. But the clock is ticking. They've improved their defense. I like the moves they've made, and in theory, the offense will be more creative now. So no more excuses. It's time to win. Seems like last few years, Aaron Rodgers has had bad games every once in a while, and people would make excuses for him. But it all led up to last year, and this year it has to be. There's a lot of pressure to win. He's 35, soon to be 36, and with his injury history, I don't know how long he's going to be able to play. So
My number 2 team is the Minnesota Vikings. And it all comes down to one person and one person only.
Kirk
Quarterback,
Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Let me tell you why. If you look at Kirk Cousins' stats, it'll tell you he's a very good quarterback.
Right.
In his career, 78 games, he's completed 67% of his passes, 20,500 yards, 129 touchdowns to 65 interceptions with a 95 quarterback rating. Those are very comparable numbers to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's average numbers in his career. And I'm not comparing to Tom Brady. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying he's been, in his career, in his 7 years in the league, he's been very good statistically.
Yeah.
But for me, it just comes down to statistics versus productivity. You can have all the stats you want, but if you're not winning games, those big games, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Versus winning teams in his career, he's a horrendous 5-25. Russell Wilson won as many games against winning teams in his rookie season than Kirk Cousins has in 7 years.
Wow, that is a stat right there. Wow.
Road games, he's not great. 13-23, not good. He's a lot better at home. Primetime games, he's 6-13, 1-12 on Monday and Thursday night football. When the lights shine, he hasn't proven to win, and he's got to do that. If he does that, hell, the Vikings might make the Super Bowl. They have the
team for it.
They have the roster to do so.
For sure. He's got that Andy Dalton syndrome. We
Yeah.
talked about that a few years ago.
Pretty good statistically, just doesn't show up.
Just
in the big
doesn't
moments.
show up in the big games. Kirk Cousins is not a bad quarterback.
No.
It's just he tends to randomly be inaccurate, and just in really bad times to be really inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll point to that Bears game in Week 11 where they
I
were
remember that
down
game.
1 touchdown, and then he throws a pick 6,
Yeah, I
and
remember
then
that game.
and then game over, and then that eventually lost them the division, and it eventually led to them missing the playoffs. He's has all those points you just made. He's terrible in big games. It's just the Vikings. They just seem like they felt like a team last year with no identity.
Yeah.
Because they just had an awful offensive line. I think it's not stated enough how bad that offensive line was. It was awful. It was terrible. They were 30th in the NFL in rushing. And most of that is due to that offensive line, because I don't think Cook is a bad back.
No. Yeah, if I had to go anywhere else aside from this quarterback debacle with Cousins and not winning the big games, I would go to the rushing attack because Cook's great back, he's very talented. I'm not denying that. It's just he's been inconsistent and had some injuries.
Yeah.
But their offensive line's great. They have one of the best wide receiver duos in football with Thielen and Diggs. And their defense has been good for years now. They have a defensive coach in Mike Zimmer, and their defense has been good for years. Xavier Rhodes, one of the best corners in football.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think their offensive line is very good. I don't disagree with that. But everything else you said was right on point. I actually, the reason why I say that is I actually watched a video the other day. It's a channel called Strong Opinion Sports, and he basically broke down the film of the Minnesota Vikings last year, and just the offensive line just missed blocks on the regular. It was, and a lot of that was to do with scheme a little bit because they were forced to do like blocks where you have to
yeah,
pull
I know what you mean.
and stuff like that, where they just weren't skilled enough to make those blocks. But even still, the offensive line was still just really bad last year. I don't know if they've made enough improvements for me to really call them good yet.
But they've been good enough. I mean, for Kirk Cousins to have the numbers he has,
Yeah.
they've been. I mean, they haven't been great, and they might not be great, but they've been good enough. And that defense,
For sure.
I mean, if that defense shows up week to week, they're not going to have to score a whole lot of points. to
Yeah,
win
they
games.
really aren't. I mean, he doesn't have to do too much. That's the thing. He just has to be solid.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's what he's been. He just hasn't made the big plays, the winning plays to win the big games, and that's the point. So
yeah.
we both agree on that. Do you have another team, or can I do my number one? My number one.
Yeah, you just go ahead and do your number one then.
All right. This is what I've been waiting for all day.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Steelers?
no.
Okay.
The
It
reason
was just a guess.
I know what you mean, and I would put them on this list if it were a top 10, but people think I don't like Mike Tomlin. I really like Mike Tomlin. He's a great coach. I'm about to mention him because I'm going to talk about the Browns, but he's never had a losing season. Understand that. In 12 years as a coach, he's never had a losing season. Right? That's impressive.
Yeah.
I just don't like I question some of the decisions he makes in game. In game, some of the time management stuff is not great, but I really like him as a football coach. I think he gets along great with the players, but I won't go on that rant right now. I'm going to talk about the Browns and why they have the most to prove.
Yeah, they definitely do.
In this upcoming season. First of all, new head coach. I'll start there. Freddie Kitchens, 44 years old. He's pretty young, but my point is he hasn't had a whole lot of experience. He's had experience at different, positional coaches at different schools. He was a graduate assistant at LSU way back in 2000. That's where he started his whole coaching career. And he's been the running back coach at North Texas, Mississippi State. He was actually, I don't know if you know this, he was actually the tight end coach in 2006 for the Dallas Cowboys. He coached running backs and tight ends again in Arizona for 10 years, 2007 to 2017. And then he came to the Browns last year, was an associate head coach and offensive coordinator. He hasn't had a whole lot of experience as a head coach, so we'll have to see what he can do.
Mhm.
And I'm not denying, by no means am I denying, that the Browns don't have the talent to win football games this year. They certainly do, and they certainly could win the division. If you want to argue that, that's fine. I'm not going to deny that. But what I will deny is this. Since this is teams with the most to prove, it's not that they can't prove it, it's that they have the most to prove. So here's what I'm going to say. And to reiterate on Freddie Kitchens, not a lot of experience. And the coaches you have to go up against if you want to win that division, Mike Tomlin, who has 12 years of experience, won 65% of his games in the National Football League, never had a losing season, 2-time Super Bowl champion. One as a head coach for Pittsburgh and one when he was an assistant with Tampa Bay in the early 2000s. And then John Harbaugh, who's also won a Super Bowl and has won 60% of his games in the National Football League. And not to mention the Bengals' new coach, Zach Taylor, who's coached in the Super Bowl, not as a head coach, but coached Jared Goff last year for the Rams. He was his quarterback coach for the Rams. That's who the Bengals hired. but we don't have to talk about the Bengals because they're
Trash.
trash. So my point on Freddie Kitchens is not a whole lot of experience. I'm not doubting him. He just has a lot to prove, and if he wants to win the division, he's going to have to go up against Mike Tomlin, beat him, and beat John Harbaugh. That's all I'm saying.
Mhm.
All right, but here's the stronger point. Strength of schedule and competition. Now, you look at the strength of schedule rankings, the Browns have the 23rd hardest schedule. So in theory, they have the 9th easiest schedule in the league next year. Opponent winning percentage from last year is 48%. So it's below 500, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
In the first 8 weeks, they face 5 teams that finished above 500, including 4 playoff teams from last year.
Right.
They play Baltimore in Baltimore.
Yeah.
They got to play both teams that played in the Super Bowl last year.
Mhm.
New England on the road, the Rams at home. They got to play Tennessee, who's going to be a tough game. They're not going to do much, but
They always put tough.
they always play tough. Here's what I'll say. Come back to me week 8, and I'll tell you if the Browns are Super Bowl contenders or not. I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't know, but I'd argue the Steelers are going to win the division. But come back to me after week 8, and I'll tell you if they're Super Bowl contenders or not. Because I looked at the odds today. They had the 5th best odds to win the Super Bowl. Here's where I really doubt them, though, and here's where they need to prove the most. Who did they really beat last year? They won 7 games, but who did they really beat? They were 1-6 against winning teams. Their only win against a winning team, a team that finished above 500, was against Baltimore. That was their only win. Baker Mayfield's statistics significantly dropped off against winning teams last year. He was 1-5, completion percentage of 58%, 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, with a below average QBR of 77. After the Hugh Jackson firing, which occurred after their Week 8 game against the Steelers, they went 5-3 the next 8 weeks. All 5 wins were against losing teams. All 3 losses were against winning teams. And in those losses to winning teams, they lost by an average of 12 points per game. So they weren't very close. So once I see that they can win the games against playoff caliber teams, you can make a very good argument that they'll win the division next year because they're obviously now the most talented team in the division, and I can't argue that. But
talent doesn't equal wins.
Talent doesn't equal wins in football.
Yeah.
As we saw with Pittsburgh. I mean, that was Pittsburgh. They were the most talented. They were one of the years.
Not
Most
most
talented.
either.
But they didn't do much of anything because of all the distractions. And that's what you mentioned earlier, the chemistry. How does all that work out
Right.
with the first-year head coach? I think they could do it, and I'm not going to doubt them. Right now, I'd pick my Steelers to win the division just because of the experience and all the noise is out of the locker room
Right.
now,
And I just think
and they're motivated. But
I think Ben is going to have a resurgent year in terms of less turnovers because a lot of the turnovers he had was when he was trying to force it to AB.
that's right. He threw 10 picks when he was trying to force it to AB.
So now, and most of that is probably AB's fault because he was probably calling for it. So, I mean, now he can just be Ben, and
one
he's
of the problems I think
Hall
with
of Famer.
one of the very few holes they their roster is maybe the most talented in the league, but one of the very few holes on the Cleveland team, and I think it's improved, is the offensive line. I don't think it's great. I think it's above average. I don't think it's great though.
Mhm.
And they didn't really add any offensive linemen. They just added to their strengths. They added another running back to go along with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They had another wide receiver to go along with Jarvis Landry. They have a Njoku, man. Njoku's great.
Njoku, I think, is going to be
And then,
the key, the third down threat that they need. I think he'll be big for them.
And then
this year.
defensively, they traded for Olivier Vernon. They added Sheldon Richardson. And I'm missing one more. They added some other star player defensively. I forget who it is, but they have talent. But one of the very few weaknesses is that offensive line. And you look at Pittsburgh, they're top 5 offensive line in the league, along with Dallas, Philadelphia, New Orleans, all those teams.
Right.
So we'll just have to see. The main point is unexperienced head coach, haven't really beaten a lot of playoff teams yet, haven't really competed in those games against winning teams. I just got to see it. They got to prove it to me. And
Right.
that's why they're on those lists.
Right.
So,
The Browns are definitely on my list too, but since you just hit everything there is
Yeah.
to be hit.
I kind of went too far, but it's
No, you're good, man. That was high quality conversation there. But I think I'm just gonna go with players that have a lot to prove.
okay. We can talk about that for a little bit. We're
Uh,
going on 2 hours.
wow.
That's what happens when you
First
start talking
player
football.
would be First player would be Mitch Trubisky though. Last year he was meh.
Yeah, he was meh.
And he was
He
meh.
wasn't bad.
He wasn't bad at
He
all.
was,
Yeah.
he was average.
Yeah.
Maybe a
And
little
he's-
above average
He has a lot of talent.
because they had a great defense.
And it's his second year in this offense.
Yeah.
I think Matt Nagy is just arguably a top 5 head coach in the league.
Could have won
Right.
that playoff game, but remember that field goal.
Right. I think the Bears were better last year than what we give them credit for. They really
Yeah.
were really,
The amount
really
of
good.
turnovers that defense force was insane.
I
I don't have
think-
the exact stat, but it was.
This is a bold statement, but I think if they win that game against Philly, they go in at New Orleans and they beat them. With that defense.
I think so too. I wouldn't argue that. I wouldn't deny that.
But that's
Yeah.
a whole
That's
discussion
that's
for
in the
another day.
past. We're talking
Right.
about the future.
Mitch Trubisky has the most approved simply because he has so many doubters and just so many expectations surrounding this team, and a lot of that rides on him improving. And the word inside improving is proving. So
That's
he's got to
true.
prove it.
Yeah. Some other players. Yeah.
Jared Goff,
Jared Goff for sure.
he wet the bed in the Super Bowl. Let's be real.
Yeah.
He played awful, like really bad. And I mean, he was really good in the regular season, but how much of that was just Sean McVay? That's
Yeah,
really
that's
the
true.
question. People were really going at his head after that Super Bowl, but I mean, I think it was just the lights got to him. He's still a young quarterback. People forget he's only in his third. He's going into his 4th year. Wait, third.
I think it's his third.
Yeah, third.
His first year was
Yeah, first year was the trash year with Jeff Fisher.
yeah.
Second year was
They
with
brought
Sean
in
McVay.
McVay.
Yeah, and they lost to the Falcons in the playoffs. And then last year was the third year, so he's going to.
Yeah, that's it.
We're getting so off topic. Why do we always do that? at the
It's
end?
we're rusty on football. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he wet the bed in the Super Bowl, but I think it wasn't all on him. I think you got to give credit to Belichick. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at the game plan. Colin Cowherd was talking about Belichick, obviously, but he was talking about his greatness, and he was talking about remember how the Rams and the Chiefs played in that crazy Monday Night Football game
Mhm.
in Mexico? That was like 54-51.
Mhm.
Whole lot of points, over 1,000 yards. It was
Yeah.
one of the best games I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Or at least one of the most exciting games I've ever seen in sports, not just football, but
Yeah.
in sports. But he was talking about in the playoffs, New England played Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, and obviously the Rams in the Super Bowl. In the first half of those games, Kansas City
Zero.
and
LA.
LA scored a combined 0 points. Did you see this? How he was talking about this?
No, I didn't.
But
I
those two explosive offenses scored a combined 0 points. And it speaks to Bill Belichick's game planning
Genius.
and genius.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can put all that on Goff. But he does need to, and some of it was the fact that Todd Gurley really couldn't play because he has problems with his legs and injuries and all that. And they did lose Cooper Cup. That's going to be huge. They have him coming back. That will help golf.
Right.
But
They lost to Dominican Sue.
but they do need to prove. They still need to prove that they can win into the lights.
Yeah.
But I think
Sure.
it takes time because that was that McVay's second season? Yeah, second
okay,
season.
second season.
So this
Right.
would be the year where you really start to, I guess, expect
more
greatness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The big advantage in the NFL right now is quarterbacks on rookie deals.
Yeah. You
Um,
want them cheap and young.
and time running out for LA. So
Yeah,
it'll
they
be
gotta
interesting to
make
see
a-
this
They got to
year.
make a quick decision after
Right.
this year to see
Right.
if they want to draft another one or keep Goff. Because there are some good quarterbacks that are going to come out this year, but next year or the year after, obviously, there's a ton of quarterbacks there. That's going to be the next great quarterback. Lawrence, Tagovailoa, there's some others you can throw in there, but this year's not bad. Ellinger could come out. Justin Herbert could come out.
Mhm.
And a couple other really good quarterbacks could come out of this year's draft. So if they wanted to try and get a quarterback in next year's draft, they didn't want to keep Goff, and I'm sure another team would hop on Goff very quickly if he were to hit free agency. But that wouldn't be a problem for him. But if they wanted to do that, they could.
Yeah.
But
They would
have
be
to
the
make
first.
a quick decision.
That would be
And it wouldn't be a bad idea because I don't think any quarterback is going to take a pay cut just because of the market. It keeps resetting.
mhm.
First it was Derek Carr, then came Rodgers, then came, it just keeps on
Ryan
going.
Stafford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, your Cowboys, how much are they going to pay
Yeah.
back?
Yeah.
It just
And then
keeps,
pretty soon it's gonna be Mahomes. He might get 40
oh,
mil.
he's going to get the bag.
He's gonna get that. Oh man.
But he deserves it.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about golf.
Right.
50 touchdowns. That I don't care what you do the rest of your career. Only Peyton Manning, I think.
Peyton Manning and Tom Brady.
Peyton
That's
Manning
it.
and Tom Brady. That's it.
That's it.
That's really good. In
And-
your
and-
first year as a starter,
Yeah,
it was his
and-
second year in the league, but first year.
And,
That's,
and people say he's a gunslinger, but he only threw like 12 picks. Like, oh my goodness, that's insane.
but not only like the stats, it's
It's the way he
you
was
have to
doing it.
watch him
Right.
to know how great he is.
Right.
Like some of the throws that he makes,
Right.
no other. It's insane.
Yeah. The fact that he led that defense in that record is just unbelievable.
And that defense is going to be
Much
much
better. Right.
They got
Tyrann
the
Mathieu.
guy from Seattle. What's his name?
Clark.
Frank Clark.
Frankel.
He led their team in sacks, I think. So we could just keep going on and on. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
end somewhere. Do you have one more player or one more thing you want to mention? Because we're gonna talk
Talking
more.
about team we forgot though.
One-
Jaguars.
I was about to put them on my list. I was about to put them in the Steelers on my list, but I didn't.
Mhm.
I can see what you're saying. Nick Foles. I think Leonard Fournette is another player that has a lot to prove this year.
Definitely.
I think he's on a make or break year in Jacksonville. I think if it doesn't work out this year, they're going to let him go.
Yeah.
And draft another one or get another one via free agency. Although I don't know how strong the running
The
back
market
class
is,
is.
It's definitely right now for the Jaguars.
They got the defense. That's never been the problem.
Yeah. The
They
question
got rid of
is,
Bortles.
the question is, can playoff Nick Foles show up
Yeah.
for 16 games? The question. He's kind of a tall, goofy dude if you look at him, but he's just the thing about Nick Foles is he throws a lot of risky passes, but in Philly he had so many great receivers that could just go up and get it. That's why he loved Jeffrey so much.
Yeah.
'Cause he just throw it up. They
He did good.
Jeffrey and Ertz
He
really.
made some huge catches in that Super Bowl.
Right. Right.
Both of them. So
Like he throws a lot of risky passes, and he also just takes what the defense gives him at times. But he he's good at throwing the jump ball, is what I'm saying. But it goes 50-50 sometimes. So if I'm a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, you just kind of have to accept that that's just who he is as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's going to throw some picks, but he's going to come back and throw some touchdowns too.
If you can
You
get
saw
him
that
to
in
the
the Bears
playoffs,
game.
if you can get him to the playoffs, though, you never know what can happen.
Right. You know what I would love to see? Him against Brady in the playoffs.
Ooh, in the AFC
Ooh,
Championship. Oh, a rematch.
man.
But on a different team. That
Yeah.
would be fantastic.
With that defense, hopefully that defense is.
But that division's tough. You got the Colts and the Texans.
Right.
So I don't know if that.
I don't think that'll happen, but
it would
that would be very intriguing for sure.
Before we sign off, who's going to win the AFC South? Colts, Texans, Jags, and Titans.
Gotta go with the best quarterback.
Yeah.
Gotta go with the best quarterback. If you think about it, they went 10-6 last year, and they started 1-5. That means including the playoffs, that means they won 10 of the last 12 games.
It got hot.
Very,
Very hot.
very blazing.
Yeah. They were one of the hottest teams on the stretch.
11,
Either way,
Yeah.
they were
11 of the last 13 games, so they won a playoff game.
So you're going Indianapolis.
Yeah,
I-
on Indy.
You just don't know because that Houston offensive line, it was so bad.
So bad.
And it's so hard to recover from that in just 1 year. I don't think it can get any worse. I think
Right.
it'll be better, but just how much better
Yeah.
can it be?
Also, they need an answer at running back.
Enough? Yeah.
They need something better than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is okay, but I think they need
Lamar Jackson. It's
Miller. Miller.
Yeah, I know what you meant. I just thought that was funny.
No.
But it's funny because Lamar Jackson plays like a running back.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he does. Yeah.
So I know what you were thinking. It was just funny.
I don't know what I'm even talking about sometimes, dude. Oh my god.
But keep going. Yeah, they need someone more formidable than
Right. I think they need Deontay Foreman to step up. Former Longhorn.
Go more either go more running back by committee and have 2 or 3 guys
Right.
who can plug in, or find a star. I don't know where you're gonna get that. But
Yeah,
maybe it's
definitely.
the draft. Maybe it's one of those
Trade
upcoming
for
drafts
Melvin
or
Gordon?
trade for one.
Trade for Melvin Gordon. They got Jadeveon Clowney traded.
Ooh, I like that. I would like if the Texans traded for Melvin Gordon. And now that he's holding out, that brings up a good. You just went from
0 to 100 real quick.
0 to 100 real quick. I like that. Oh, I haven't thought about that yet. We can talk about that for another day.
Yeah.
But it's officially our longest podcast at 2 hours 12 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
And we're rusty on football.
Yeah.
So
And-
that just goes to show.
Yeah, you can just go on forever.
But we'll be back soon with because this year's different because we're gonna go to college. I don't know when you leave. You leave
I leave on 17th.
17th. Okay, so you leave a week before me. Well, I don't have to go far.
Yeah,
You got to go a little farther than me. But anyway, that's why we're previewing football a little earlier this year, is because we're not going to be able to do it mid to late August because we'll be getting ready to go to school.
Right.
So we'll definitely be back in the next week and a half to talk more NFL. I still want to talk a little bit more college. We forecasted the college football playoff, but we didn't really pick solid conference winners. I want to do that.
Mhm.
And then we'll obviously do more NFL predictions. And we'll talk fantasy football. We did a fantasy football
Right.
one last year.
Yeah, we got to do a fantasy football.
We'll do one of those too. So we'll see you guys then. This has been Raw Prospect Podcast, episode 28. I'm Michael. He's Emmy. Peace out.
Yeah, it's been lit as always.
Wow. I can't believe that. 2 hours.